heart of camp, looking like Santa Claus having a total midlife crisis. For a tired tribe that completely forgot what it felt like when everyone actually ate on the exact same day. This setup felt like striking pure El Dorado. The stunned silence barely lasted about 3 seconds before absolute food chaos erupted everywhere. So much food and gorgeous real furs emerged. Complete pelts and glowing magic cores were spotted. He genuinely brought magic cores and iron weapons. Grown people were literally crying on the spot, hugging each other tight and kissing the dusty ground, jumping up and down while excited kids swarmed the meat pile, with wild eyes the exact size of dinner plates. Tears streamed down old women's faces like waterfalls. Tough warriors, who had been holding pathetic pointy sticks minutes ago, were now cradling actual lethal iron swords, like they were precious newborn babies letting out a sigh. I let them have their moment before raising my hand. An instant, heavy silence fell over everyone. Every single face turned toward me, glowing with pure awe. All the food goes straight to elders, children, and wounded first, along with the grain supplies. Shaman Mora and Bark will handle the distribution cleanly, while the best weapons go to the strongest fighters. Since we are forming a proper guard unit now, nobody dared argue or even think about questioning it. I had just leveled up from a total suspected loser, straight to undisputed chief in roughly 15 minutes flat, achieved using nothing more than a massive rock, an even bigger pile of sweet loot, plus that unshakable main character confidence born from knowing you could easily bench press the entire village. My gaze shifted to Scarface, still sitting in his own mess. Whatever you pulled on Stanson earlier is totally forgiven. Though if you ever bully a single soul around here again. I didn't even finish the sentence, nor did I need to. Yes, sir, absolutely. It will never happen again, sir. Chief, yes, sir. He was bowing so hard and fast. He looked like he might give himself a concussion. Chief, though I honestly hadn't even claimed that title yet. Yet we both realized it was essentially just paperwork at this stage. Right then, Lena materialized right beside me, as she kept her eyes locked on. The tribe folks happily passing out supplies. You're low-key way more popular than anyone thought, she whispered softly. A little kid taking a massive bite of dried meat caught my eye, before suddenly shedding tears of pure joy. An unexpected tightness hit my chest hard, which had zero to do with King Kong, bloodline, or chaos magic. This is literally just step one. I muttered low, full bellies might keep you kicking, but this tribe seriously needs way more than food. They require actual strength, order, and dignity. My gaze drifted across the desolate mountains. Out there somewhere lurked Chief Guard and his wolf army. Somewhere out there stood rival tribes who had roasted these folks. For generations, somewhere out in the distance existed an entire world that had totally written off the Blackstone tribe as complete losers. And I'm dead-ass going to hand them all of it. Honestly, I've lost count of the days by now. But the crew rolled back home, flexing in absolute triumph. Day 1. Acting as the unofficial head honcho of the saddest village alive. Sun is blazing and the fog is finally lifting. While for the first time in forever, the Blackstone tribe woke up with actual food in their stomachs. You would honestly assume I just handed them VIP access to paradise. Kids were actually running around playing. Grown-ups were chewing their food super slowly, savoring every single bite like a fancy Michelin star dinner. Despite it being dried meat tasting strictly like salted cardboard, a spark of life had finally returned to their eyes, bringing a fragile hope that flickered faintly but felt real. Climbing atop that massive boulder I hoisted yesterday, which served as my new podium and literal throne. My official. Yes, I can lift this. So don't even test me reminder, I surveyed my domain. Though to be completely real, my kingdom was total trash. Feature-packed with smashed fences and collapsing mud huts, starving citizens, and weapons built entirely from sticks and pure manifestation. We had one ancient shaman older than some of the local trees, alongside a stellar military force consisting of guys who could barely hold a pointy stick without dropping it. We featured zero agriculture and zero infrastructure, with absolutely nothing going for us except, you know what? At least I managed to secure around 30 able-bodied folks who were completely spooked by me and totally down to follow any command I dropped, since I tossed them food and casually flipped a massive boulder. Hey, that's a vibe to start with. Drawing in a sharp breath, I immediately channeled my inner drill sergeant. Phase 1 was simply feeding the Blackstone tribe. Yet if we just sit around stuffing our faces right now, We'll be completely starved in a week and total goners in 2. We gotta build up strength and put up walls. Plus secure a sustainable food supply that actually grows back. Every single gaze locked onto me, some filled with pure hope, others totally bewildered, and a few still chewing on their midday meal. The whole dynamic is shifting, and I'm stepping up to run the show. Priority number 1. Bark, we've got work to do. Yes, sir. I mean, that big guy snapped right into attention, acting as if he had spent his entire existence waiting for somebody to bark out commands at him. Honestly, he low-key probably had. Listen up, every male from 16 to over 40, plus any woman looking for a fight. Head out to the East Clearing right now, because I need to size up my crew. Bark started hollering at the top of his lungs, and the crowd scrambled into motion. Barely 10 minutes later, roughly 30 half-orcs were gathered, in a messy cluster over on the east field, clutching random items that could loosely pass for weaponry if you squinted really, really hard. As I checked out my squad, they stared right back at me in total silence. This project was definitely going to take a minute. They looked scrawny, fragile, and completely lacking any discipline, poorly geared up and totally giving off the collective energy of a litter of shelter kittens at a dog show. Some were holding their makeshift spears completely backward, while one dude was literally using a shield, crafted out of a slab of tree bark as a lawn chair, yet buried underneath all layers of malnutrition and heavy defeat. There was real potential here since these guys were actual orcs. Half-orcs, sure. Yet pure orc blood runs hot, and fighting is basically written in their DNA. It had simply been beaten out of them by long years of severe poverty and non-stop humiliation, so it's high time we spark that fire back. Listen up, team. I know you are all starving and completely drained. I bellowed out, while pacing back and forth right in front of their eyes. I'm fully aware that you think those wooden sticks in your hands are totally useless. So you better hear me out right now. I paused to emphasize, letting the dead silence settle in, because true strength isn't just handed to you, and genuine courage is never gifted for free. Epic gear doesn't just magically drop out of the sky for us. Do you even realize why those other tribes clown on us? It's because we're total pushovers, totally scattered to the winds, and buying into the lie that we're worth absolutely nothing. Expression shifts rippled across the room, flashing deep shame. Raw anger was brewing, sparking the vibe of something ready to blow. Back then, I was low-key the absolute weakest in this entire place, jamming a finger in my own chest, the very guy you all assumed was 6 feet under. Yet somehow I pulled through, leveling up and getting insanely buff. And now I'm stepping up to show you guys how to get totally jacked too. Provided, of course, you stop acting like literal farm animals, just waiting around for the slaughterhouse. Right there in their gaze, I could literally spot that tiny flicker coming alive. That inner, dormant orc fire was finally beginning to smolder. So give it to me straight, I bellowed out over the crowd. Are you guys really down to keep being absolute nobodies? Just sitting ducks while wolves or goblins stroll right on in here. Steal your chow, slaughter your families, and use your actual skulls as living room decor. Or are you ready to ride or die with me, sweating and bleeding through the grind, to morph into legit warriors who actually protect their own? Speak up, and Bark was the absolute first to step forward. Eyes blazing bright red and roaring, I'm going to be a fierce warrior. Then another chimed in with no more starving out in the dirt. Let's defend our turf and back Stanson all the way. The whole scene was totally messy and chaotic as hell, with half of them outright sobbing while shouting at the top of their lungs. Still, looking at it, the whole vibe was low-key beautiful. 30 starving, ragged, beaten down half-orcs, screaming out their fierce defiance at a cold world that had completely written them off. Not gonna lie, I almost got in my feelings there for a second, almost. Instead, I channeled all that heavy emotion right back into yelling louder, all right. You lot are officially the founding soldiers of the Blackstone tribe. Consider me your head commanding instructor. And this right here, I gestured toward Lena, who was radiating a seriously cool and lethal aura, postured right there with her arms tightly crossed over her chest, is none other than Deputy Instructor Lena. She'll be schooling you on stealth tactics, scouting drills, and how to navigate terrain without sounding like an entire stampede of hammered elephants. Anybody caught slacking off on my watch gets their food rations instantly slashed. Real warriors grub down on hearty meals while quitters chew on plain bark. Hearing the word meal dropped hit way harder than any cheesy motivational speech ever could. Instantly, every single pair of eyes locked on me blazing bright. First drill on the docket is running a full lap around the entire camp perimeter. Until I explicitly call it quits, nobody stops moving an inch. Drag your feet and fall behind, and you're officially tomorrow's lunch meat. Bark called out the soup, low-key signaling the start. Shooting forward like a rocket, Bark took the lead. Right behind him, everyone else scrambled hard, running as if their lives totally depended on it. Well, because their soup literally hung in the balance, it pretty much did. At the end of the day, that was basically the exact same vibe. If you could even dignify that chaos by calling it a formation. It was hilariously trash, featuring totally wobbly legs. Gasping for air, 3 poor guys even tripped over the exact same rock. Somehow, one woman managed to blaze past everyone else effortlessly. Noted like a future squad leader. Though props to them, they were running and giving it their all. Gliding right beside them like a shadowy, cat-eared ninja, Lena paced the group, materializing next to any slacker out of nowhere. She'd hit them straight with that piercing amber-eyed death stare. Running a masterclass in pure terror-driven motivation, it totally worked. While my chaotic rookie squad wheezed their way across the camp perimeter, I shifted my focus over to Phase 2, civilization building. Shaman Mora was already busy sorting out our inventory, operating with the intense efficiency of a seasoned, no-nonsense accountant. Mora, where can we find a reliable water hookup around here? Any decent farming plots nearby? Gesturing eastward, she pointed toward a winding stream. There's a creek that never runs dry, accompanied by a damp patch of earth sitting right next to it. Too rocky for crops. Even though we tried cultivating root veggies there ages ago, that miserable harvest made us call it quits. Checking it out myself, I found a small yet steady stream. The surrounding terrain looked genuinely promising, fairly flat and moist, sporting decent dirt underneath about 9,000 boulders. Honestly, nothing a dedicated crew of orcs couldn't handle, especially fueled by peak motivation, and a boss capable of bench-pressing massive rocks. Starting tomorrow, dragging the heel of my boot through the dusty earth, I declared, we are clearing these rocks and leveling out this terrain, digging irrigation canals straight from the stream and building actual farms. Mora blinked, deadpan, asking, but we don't know how to? I'll teach you, I told her. My mind was already speed-running through everything I remembered from my past life about mountain agriculture, such as hardy crop varieties, basic irrigation engineering, and proper soil management. Somewhere hidden in this wild world, local equivalents had to exist for things like potatoes, turnips, or fast-growing grains, and the shaman would surely know the native flora. Also, hunting is continuing, but we're doing it systematically now, with our top trackers led by Bark or Lena planning out targeted expeditions for furs and meat, keeping the whole operation totally sustainable, instead of slaughtering every creature in the forest, which would leave us with 0 food by next season. Mora tilted her head, catching the vibe. So, don't eat all the animals today. So there are actually animals tomorrow? Exactly, big brain time. Turning toward the pathetic mud huts, I pointed and ranted. Those things are an absolute joke to call shelter. Just one heavy rainstorm and half the tribe is suddenly homeless. So we are upgrading to real structures, built from solid stone and heavy timber, and I'll draft the designs. That massive cliff right behind our camp is packed with raw stone. So we quarry, we build, and we stop living like a single gust of wind could wipe us out. I was totally locked in, letting my grand blueprint pour out of me effortlessly, as years of military logistics training were finally paying off for something way better than pure warfare. Supply chains, resource management, efficient division of labor, and smart task prioritization, clean water, irrigation, farming, and total food security, alongside combat readiness, strict discipline, and defense, plus solid construction, shelter, and high morale. Those are literally the 3 pillars for turning a dying little village into a thriving civilization. Feed them, train them, and house them properly, because everything else builds on top of that. Mora was staring right at me like I had suddenly sprouted a second head. Though it was a totally good kind of stare, the kind that says, holy crap, this person actually knows their stuff. Deep inside her expression, I could watch years of heavy despair, fracturing away from her eyes, being replaced by a rare feeling she hadn't experienced in decades. Actual hope. Oh, and one last thing, I added, you are the shaman, meaning you know every single plant and animal around these parts. So I need you to help me identify the fastest growing, high-yield edible crops are the top priority, alongside any docile critters we can actually tame. Hunting is officially a thing of the past for us. Farming and livestock breeding are taking over now. Sustainable food production is the name of the game. Yes, Lord Stanson, I'll jump right on that task. She literally stood up straighter as those words left her mouth. My steps turned back toward the area where my squad was training. Maybe a couple of laps had been finished by them. Gasping for breath with bent backs accounted for half the crew, while one poor dude was completely flat on his face in the dirt, making peace with his maker. Bark was still pushing forward with a beet-red face, but an iron will, pulling two exhausted stragglers along purely by leading through grit. Grasping my war club tightly, I strode over and dropped a loud "Did I say stop?" 30 bodies snapped straight instantly and bolted into a jog again. It is low-key wild what proper motivation can achieve. With a nearly hidden smirk, Lena materialized right next to me. They are hopeless, but they belong to me, I shot back. Give me a month, and they won't be trash anymore, she replied, locking her gaze onto mine, truly staring through me with those amber eyes that possessed the uncanny ability to peer straight through any bullshit. You're low-key loving this, I chuckled with a grin. Honestly, I couldn't help it after spending 10 full years in Special Forces. Then kicking the bucket, only to wake up as a massive orc. Then brawling with a demon wolf and wiping out goblins. Accidentally turning into a literal healing deity. Robbing an entire village blind and scamming a dwarf. And now, with a sweeping hand gesture at the total circus before us. Stumbling recruits, a busy shaman organizing logistics. Workers already eyeing up the rocky patch near the stream. And wide-eyed kids watching the runners with pure awe. Now I finally get to build an empire from scratch. So yeah, I was totally vibing with this. The grand makeover of the Blackstone tribe had officially kicked off. Current status of the army. 30 deeply out-of-shape recruits willing to do absolutely anything for a bowl of soup. Agriculture layout, planned out. Pending some heavy boulder clearing while housing designs stay locked inside my head. Materials are accessible and leadership style is set. Fueled heavily by absolute terror, mixed with a dash of food motivation. Long-term vision. Transform this absolute dumpster fire into an impenetrable fortress. Timeline for success. Yesterday, somewhere out there in the wild, Chief Guard was heading back home to discover a completely emptied treasury. In a catastrophic mood waiting to explode. Somewhere out in the broader territories, heavy-hitting tribes were sharpening their blades in search of easy targets. Yet right here inside this humble little valley, 30 half-orcs were jogging in pointless circles. An elderly shaman was busy cataloging wild root vegetables. And a former Chinese guy, perched atop a rugged boulder, a former Special Forces operative was plotting the blueprint for a rising empire. Laying down the groundwork for absolute domination was the main agenda. While the sun cast a warm glow, endless horizons beckoned with pure potential. Naturally, my hyper-motivated crew was dialed in. Without a single command given, my squad had already kicked off their third grueling lap. Trust me, we were going to absolutely crush it. Hoisting a massively heavy boulder effortlessly above my head set the vibe. Just by radiating pure dominant energy, I literally scared a grown man into wetting himself. Spawning an entire mountain of shimmering treasure straight out a magical ring was a flex. Feeding a starving village full of hungry souls was accomplished in style. Becoming the de facto leader happened effortlessly without even asking. Bringing genuine smiles to children's faces honestly hit different. Right here, right now, the legendary rise of the Blackstone tribe officially begins. God genuinely help anyone foolish enough to cross our path this fine morning. Day 2 of Drill Sergeant Gaeta's absolute boot camp from hell was underway. All 30 of my recruits were lined up across the dusty training field. They looked like absolute wrecks who had just taken a massive L in a full-scale war. Which, let's be real, they technically had. Their worst enemy had been yesterday's brutal running exercise. Barely able to stay upright. Half of them were swaying. Drenched completely in sweat, every single one of them was exhausted. One poor guy was softly begging his ancestors to just take him out of his misery. Planting my feet firmly, I stood right in front of them. I gave off the exact energy of a deeply disappointed parent at a school play. Look at you guys, I barked out sharply. Just a few light laps, and you're already melting down like cheap butter in a skillet. Do you actually think real enemies will kindly wait around for you to catch your breath? Our bloodthirsty goblins go to politely say, "Oh, sorry, you guys seem kind of tired. We'll come back later to slaughter your entire families instead." Good old-fashioned public shame works absolute wonders on orcs. Spines instantly straightened and jaws clenched tight as they felt the pressure. Good. Here is the raw reality. These guys had spent their entire lives fighting battles. Their tactical sophistication mirrored that of enraged toddlers throwing a tantrum. Their entire game plan was charging blindly at a problem and swinging wildly until something broke. There was zero technique, zero strategy, and zero finesse involved. The basic concept of maybe not getting hit had never crossed their minds. It was finally time to school them properly. Welcome to the masterclass of extremely practical, no-nonsense violence. Erase every single thing you think you know about fighting right now. Drawing a sleek short knife from my belt, I stepped forward. I sliced the blade smoothly through the morning air, in a series of pinpoint demonstration strikes. Starting now, every single attack must target a lethal weak point. Go for the eyes to blind them, strike the throat to choke them, pierce the heart to finish them, smash the joints to cripple them, and hit the groin. Well, honestly, you guys get the absolute vibe. 30 pairs of eyes dilated wide in pure shock. Not once in their lives had they heard combat broken down like this. It was essentially a retail shopping list of human vulnerabilities. And if all else fails, just throw fistfuls of coarse dirt right into their eyes, because there is. Playing dirty is totally non-existent when your neck is actually on the line. Only folks who can afford to lose care about honor, and we sure can't. We're talking pure Special Forces combat philosophy here. Dumbed straight down to a caveman vibe, totally unglamorous but insanely effective. Suit up in pairs and practice these brutal strikes on each other. Keep it strictly simulated, because anyone who actually rats out their training partner gets a one-way ticket to spar with Bloodfong instead. Instantly, every single head whipped toward Bloodfong, who decided that exact second to let out a massive yawn, flaunting roughly 900 razor-sharp teeth, alongside a tongue rough enough to sand down solid oak. Not a single soul dared to name their partner, turning the entire dusty training field into the most awkward dance class ever witnessed. 30 half-orcs awkwardly poking at each other's eyes and throats, while low-key muttering confused instructions under their breath. Stab hard. Wait, no, your left. Wait, no, my left, seriously. Hold on, which am I even supposed to stab? Lena and I waded straight into the chaos to set everyone straight. My teaching style was loud, chaotic, and low-key terrifying, while hers was bone-chillingly silent and 10 times worse. She would suddenly materialize behind some poor guy, lightly tap his wrist with just one finger, and boom, his weapon would instantly clatter to the dirt. Then she'd completely vanish just to repeat the flex on someone else. Half the rookies low-key thought she was a literal ghost. Keep that wrist stable and strike sharp. You aren't back here kneading bread. You're trying to take someone out. Watch that footwork. Dodge sideways instead of stumbling backward. Carve out your angles, because that right there is a heart strike. Even my grandma could survive that weak hit. Engage your core. The morning session was brutally exhausting and repetitive, yet I could totally see it working. Eyes that looked completely vacant earlier were starting to lock in. Movements that started out super sloppy were looking crisp as hell. Fighting was literally in the blood of these orcs anyway. They just needed someone to point them in the right direction. Plus, I totally promised extra soup to the top 10 performers. The vibe shifted and the transformation was instant. Honestly, nothing motivates a crowd quite like competitive eating rights. Guys who were dragging their feet barely 5 minutes prior were suddenly executing kill strikes with the fierce intensity of elite Olympic athletes. Lunch finally rolled in carrying a giant pot of meat stew that smelled like it came straight from heaven's cafeteria. I made sure to personally ladle out extra heavy portions for the 10 hardest workers in the squad. The remaining 20 watched them eat with sheer murder in their eyes. Absolutely textbook, because tomorrow they're going to grind twice as hard. Right after lunch came the real interesting part. Right in the middle of camp, seasoned Shamamura had set up shop, surrounded by clay pots of weird-smelling herb powders, alongside a small ritual drum covered in intricate runes. She was gearing up to teach the warrior's bloodlust, a classic orc shaman spell designed to supercharge fighters with a heavy dose of rage fuel power that boosts strength, speed, and pain tolerance. Essentially the fantasy equivalent of a group adrenaline shot. Feel your heartbeat. Mora chanted, her voice surprisingly powerful for someone who looked like a strong gust of wind. Could knock her over. Remember your anger, the hunger, the sheer humiliation, the helplessness. She tossed red powder straight into an open fire, causing pungent smoke to billow up as the drum started beating. Slow, deep, and hitting something raw and primal in every chest. I could easily feel the energy she was trying to channel. Though honestly, it was cute, like a gentle breeze trying to stir a pond. Still, for my recruits, it was enough. Their breathing got heavy. Their eyes turned slightly red and muscles tensed. Maybe a solid 10% boost, which was pretty respectable for an elderly shaman running on fumes. Then my idiot brain got curious. My thought, that's an interesting energy pattern. I wonder if I could actually replicate it. You know that awkward thing where you reach for a light, switch in the dark, and accidentally trip the main breaker for the entire building? Well, that's pretty much what happened when I tried to mentally copy Mora's energy channeling technique. It was supposed to be a tiny experiment, just a quick peek. The psychic equivalent of dipping just one toe in the water, except my metaphorical toe happened to be a spiritual force roughly the size of an entire continent. Meanwhile, the water was Mora's fragile little spell channel, which was only ever designed to handle the modest energy output of one tired old lady. My overwhelming spiritual power flooded through her fragile spell framework like a fire hydrant, blasting straight through a fragile garden hose. Boom! Not a physical sound, but a massive spiritual shockwave. A devastating wave of blood-red, rage-saturated berserker energy suddenly exploded outward straight from me, slamming into every single person within 100 meters like an out-of-control psychic freight train. The resulting effect was instantaneous and utterly terrifying. Every single warrior's eyes flashed solid red, as thick blood vessels violently erupted across their skin like complex road maps. Their muscles inflated wildly like party balloons blown past their limit, causing clothes to rip and seams to literally pop, with veins bulging aggressively. All rational thought vanished instantly, completely replaced by pure, undiluted, primordial murder instinct. Absolute power. Unlimited, terrifying power screaming kill, kill, kill. My recruits had officially evolved from barely competent trainees, transforming straight into absolute rage monsters in half a sec. A training post took a brutal punch from one dude, snapping a trunk thick enough to hug in half with a single hit. Full speed was slammed right into a cliff face by another, leaving the cliff completely wrecked. Total bedlam took over the training ground instantly. 30 supercharged berserkers were screaming and smashing everything in sight while running at easily 5 or 6 times their usual power output. Like King Kong, Bark was beating his chest and howling at the sky, and even Lena got caught up in it. Her eyes turned red, fangs grew out, and she was shaking visibly from trying desperately not to pounce on the nearest living soul, while Mora collapsed onto the turf, looking pale as a ghost, gasping, "Ancestors above, this isn't just bloodlust. Did a god just descend? Nah, Mora, your new chief, just accidentally pulled off a super scion transformation for 30 people, out of pure curiosity, leaving my recruits about 3 seconds away from ripping each other to shreds, wrecking the entire camp, or just obliterating everything indiscriminately. Since rage doesn't do target selection at all, fix it, fix it, fix it, I yanked my spiritual power back, like jerking a fishing line, and simultaneously bellowed with every ounce of authority I possessed. Wake up, control your rage. The power serves you, not the other way around. My willpower was pushed straight through my voice, channeling 10 years of commanding soldiers through life or death situations, concentrated into a single thunderclap of, "Sit down and behave right now." Deep in my core, the ancient tree heart marrow pulsed, sending out waves of calming, stabilizing energy comparable to spiritual cold water dumped on 30 overheated engines, and it totally worked. The red color slowly drained from their eyes. Bulging muscles deflated, and the murder fog lifted, dropping my warriors one by one like puppets, with cut strings crashing straight to the ground. 30 bodies hitting the dirt all at once, unable to move or speak, barely even breathing, completely and utterly drained. Bark knelt on one knee, pulled his axe up for support, with his chest heaving like a bellows, while Lena leaned against a rock, looking pale and shaky, staring right at me with an expression that clearly said, "What the heck did you just do?" Smashed posts and a demolished training ground left half the area in ruins, with fractured rocks scattered around. Deep gouges ripped through the earth like a bomb had just gone off. A total rage bomb. Yet somehow right in the dead center of it all stood me, completely untouched. I just stared around at the massive devastation I had accidentally unleashed through one tiny mental experiment, totally thinking. Well, that escalated quickly. Trembling on shaky legs, Mora crawled across the ground toward me, before dropping to her knees and staring upward with the exact expression of someone who just watched their deity stub his toe and accidentally trigger a massive earthquake. Lord Stanson, that was not just ordinary bloodlust. That was pure divine wrath. You channeled a terrifying power beyond anything our ancient traditions described, and then you actually reined it back in. Not a single living shaman could pull off either of those feats. Bowing low, she pressed her forehead flat against the dirt. You are not merely blessed by the ancestors anymore. You are the absolute embodiment of that power. Yeah, well, I was also the total idiot who almost accidentally got his own army to slaughter each other during a routine training exercise, but let's definitely focus on the positive spin here. My gaze swept over my flattened troops, consisting of 30 exhausted and traumatized warriors lying humbled in the dirt, as they tried to figure out if they had just hallucinated the last 60 seconds of their lives, making it prime time for a leadership moment. What you all just felt, I said, keeping my voice remarkably steady and commanding, was real power, though it remains a total double-edged sword. When left uncontrolled, it destroys everything in sight, including yourselves. I let that heavy truth sink in. Today was an accident, served alongside a harsh warning and a goal, proving I can indeed channel this force, so that someday, once your minds and bodies grow strong enough, you might actually be able to borrow it as well, without losing your minds entirely. Dozens of faces lifted from the dirt, showing deep fear, sure, but also a fierce hunger. They had tasted godlike power for roughly 30 seconds straight, and despite all the overwhelming agony and sheer terror, they genuinely wanted more, because honestly, you've got to love orcs. You've got to love them. Slicing through the silence, I sharpened my voice like a blade. Everybody up on your feet right now, since weakness is never an excuse. True warriors are always forged by pushing past their limits. Take a quick 10-minute break before we dive right back into emotional control training, sparking groans and whimpers, with one guy literally shedding tears. Even so, every single one of them dragged themselves up, shaky and completely wrecked. They were barely functional, yet they were standing tall. Pulling Mora aside shortly after, I told her we needed a serious chat about this whole bloodlust issue, regarding spiritual energy control and literally everything else. Figuring out how this magic system operates is an absolute must for me, so I don't accidentally nuke my own people next time around. Whatever you wish, Lord Stanson, she whispered, her voice still trembling with residual shock. Your will dictates the tribe's direction. Today's training. Report morning combat drills. Productive afternoon, shaman ritual catastrophic. Success accidentally invented super bloodlust. Nearly caused a friendly fire berserker apocalypse. Saved everyone at the last second with sheer willpower. Maintained leadership credibility, despite almost wiping out the entire squad. Somehow troops respect, level maximum, partly fear. Partly all partly. That was the coolest and most terrifying thing ever. My control over my own abilities. Still a solid D- the good news. I now know I can supercharge an entire army into temporary demigods. The bad news. I have approximately zero control over the dosage. And everyone almost died. The real news. Once I figure this out, any army I lead will be the most terrifying fighting force this continent has ever seen. Just gotta work on the not accidentally killing my own soldiers. Part first. Details. After nearly turning my entire army into mindless rage zombies yesterday, I thought maybe we should take a break from the accidentally unleash a forbidden power routine and focus on something less likely to kill everyone. Like farming. I know, I went from Chinese special forces operative to demon wolf tamer to goblin slayer to tribal warlord to farmer. The career trajectory is truly inspiring. Someone write my biography, but here's the reality. My 30 warriors were eating through our stolen food supply like it was a competitive sport. High-intensity training plus wolf metabolism equals we'll be starving again in 5 days. Math. Hunting alone couldn't sustain us. We needed agriculture. The boring, unsexy, absolutely essential foundation of every civilization that ever lasted. More than a month. First thing, next morning, I marched the entire tribe leadership down to that rocky riverbank I'd scouted earlier. We're setting up farms here, I declared, sweeping my arm out toward a barren stretch of jagged stones and dirt. Blank stares met the rocks, shifted to me, and drifted back to the stones. An elder spoke up, wondering aloud, "But we don't know how to grow things." With the gentle bewilderment of someone being told to suddenly take flight. "Then you'll learn. Too many rocks. Clear them out. Soil too dry. Dig an irrigation channel. This isn't rocket science. People, you just pop seeds into the dirt. Pour on some water, wait, and boom, food grows." Humanity cracked this code 10,000 years ago, so we can definitely figure it out by Thursday. Operating firmly in project manager mode, honestly, felt low-key amazing after a decade of military logistics training. Finally being put to constructive use. Instead of tearing things down, my brain was absolutely vibing as I pivoted to Shaman Mora. I need plants. Something with chunky roots that grows fast and fills bellies. Anything like that around here? Mora's ancient brain stalled for a moment. There are dirt potatoes, fist-sized tubers, that shoot up fast during the rainy season and really hit the spot. He continued, and hardshell wheat, tiny grains, that are tough and tasteless, though you can grind them into flour. Perfect. Dispatch foraging teams immediately. Dig up every single dirt potato you can find, and gather every wheat head packed with plump seeds. Go, go, go. People scrambled into action. Straight after, I started dragging lines through the dirt, literally sketching out an irrigation blueprint with a simple stick. Build a dam here, carve a channel there, letting gravity pull water straight from the stream to the fields. It was basic hydraulic engineering. That would have barely snagged me a C- back in college. It stood about 5 millennia ahead of anything this tribe had ever witnessed. Bark, my absolute favorite meathead, spread it over, still looking a bit wobbly from yesterday's workout. "Sir, grab your 10 best guys. Tomorrow you're building a dam. And digging a water channel, heavy labor. So just look at it as bonus strength training. Nail this task, and meat is completely unlimited." Park's eyes lit up like a supernova. "Yes, SIR. Honestly, the guy would happily wrestle an entire mountain for unlimited meat perks. Everyone else, women, children, elders, everyone, watched on. Massive boulders are hauled away as we clear out this riverbank. Tiny pebbles get sifted out one by one. Neat rows are formed after leveling the earth. Baskets for hauling are woven by the elders. This land feeds your kids, so hustle like it actually matters. Since it low-key does. Tribal standards were totally blown away by the sheer scale of the operation. Every single resident of Blackstone was involved, rounding out to roughly 60 people max. They rallied together for the very first joint construction project in their entire history. While I kicked off Phase 2 right alongside it. Those pathetic mud huts were an absolute crime against architecture, to shelter, and to the very essence of being indoors. Beavers genuinely built better homes than those shacks. Striding up to the cliff, right behind our camp, I thumped the exposed stone and made my announcement. Unlimited building supplies, because we're going full stone. Grabbed a stick right after and sketched the blueprint straight into the dirt. Basic rectangular layouts, featuring a solid stone foundation. Walls built from clay and rock, topped with heavy wooden beams. Thick thatch overhead sealed tight, with mud plaster for insulation. Nothing fancy or high-tech that would snag any design awards. Yet cozy, bone-dry, and tough enough to withstand real weather without crashing down on sleeping kids. Sketching furiously like a madman in the dust. Each family gets a sturdy home with real walls and a proper roof. That won't just collapse if someone so much as sneezes, I explained, gazing at my sketches. The tribe stared like I had just drawn up plans for a spaceship. Warm, dry, and collapse-proof made total sense to them, though. And honestly, that was all the convincing they needed. Someone chimed in, asking where on earth we were supposed to find clay right under the riverbank. We will dig it straight out while carving out the irrigation channel. Killing 2 birds with 1 shovel. What about the thatch for the roofs? Foraging squads were dispatched to the meadows, with women and kids harvesting grass. Spreading it out to bake in the sun because mountains of dry grass were required. Every single question had a solution, and every job had a designated leader. Our tribe was transforming into a well-oiled machine, albeit a bit creaky and slow, running entirely on hot soup and pure willpower. Still, a functioning machine, nonetheless, as the sun came up the next morning. The Blackstone tribe rolled out of bed and immediately hit the grind. And I mean absolutely everyone, including the riverbank crew. sweat glistening on their shirtless torsos as they lugged heavy boulders and plowed through the dirt channels, chanting improvised work songs that basically amounted to nothing more than rhythmic grunts. Those 10 guys who could barely jog a couple of days ago were now moving tons of earth like seasoned construction pros who have been doing it all their lives. Ngay lập tức, cả bọn bắt đầu hustle cực căng dọc theo mép sông nhà. Toàn bộ phần dân số còn lại đang hoạt động nhộn nhịp hệt như một tổ kiến chăm chỉ. Trong khi các anh đàn ông đang hì hục cày từng khối đá bự chảng, thì đám trẻ cùng các chị em đang xách những sọt đầy ắp sỏi đá nhỏ. Công đoạn san lấp mặt bằng được giám sát bởi mấy cụ cao niên. Đồng thời, đám trẻ cũng được chỉ dạy cách bố trí các luống trồng sao cho thật chuẩn chỉnh. Dọc theo bìa rừng, một nhóm thiếu nữ đang được dẫn dắt bởi Mother trong nhiệm vụ nhận diện và thu gom củ khoai tây cùng hạt lúa mì, với sự nâng niu đầy cẩn trọng, tựa như ai đó đang cầm trên tay những viên kim cương quý giá. Quay trở lại khu trại, những thân cây đang bị đốn hạ bởi các đội đốn củi, còn các thợ đục đá thì đang mải miết gọt giũa khối đá từ vách núi. Một hồi chị em cực kỳ lanh lợi đã bắt tay vào thử nghiệm công thức pha trộn đất sét và rơm của tôi, rồi nhồi nhét chúng thành vật liệu xây dựng vững chãi. Khắp các vách thung lũng vang vọng những âm thanh lao động rộn ràng vui tai, trong khi tôi xuất hiện ở mọi ngóc ngách, chạy đôn chạy đáo giữa bờ sông và khu trại hệt như một quản lý dự án đã nốc cạn mấy lon nước tăng lực tại công trường, vừa gánh vác vai trò kỹ sư trưởng, chủ nhiệm nông nghiệp, thanh tra xây dựng lẫn chuyên gia truyền lửa. Góc nghiêng cái rãnh đó phải làm dốc hơn nữa chứ. Nước cần trọng lực mới chảy được, hãy giữ lại ngay hòn đá dẹt kia, vì nó hoàn hảo để xây tường đấy. Hãy hái những bông lúa mì vàng ươm, rồi loại bỏ mấy bông bị hao quắt đi, tiếp tục cho thêm nước vào hỗn hợp đất sét, nhào cho đến khi nó kết dính hoàn hảo mà không hề dính tay. Dòng tôi đã khản đặc từ lúc chưa đứng bóng, nhưng tôi đếch thèm bận tâm. Đây là khoảnh khắc tôi thấy mình tràn trề nhựa sống nhất kể từ ngày đặt chân đến thế giới này. Thay vì những trận chiến đấu hay cảnh sinh tồn chật vật, giờ đây là xây dựng và tạo ra mọi thứ từ bàn tay trắng, hô biến một ngôi làng lụi tàn thành một cộng đồng đầy sức sống. Suốt cả ngày dài, Lena cứ bám sát gót tôi, quan sát mọi thứ bằng đôi mắt màu hổ phách sắc lẹm đó. Tôi thừa biết là cô nhóc đang học hỏi đấy, thu nạp vào đầu từng kỹ thuật một, từ từng nguyên lý cho đến từng quyết định. Đúng là một người phụ nữ cực kỳ lanh lợi. Lỡ như có chuyện gì bất trắc xảy ra với tôi, thì cô ấy vẫn thừa sức duy trì mọi thứ tiếp tục vận hành. Từ đỉnh đồi, Blue giám sát toàn bộ với ánh nhìn sắc như dao cạo, quét sạch mọi ngóc ngách xung quanh để đề phòng hiểm họa trong lúc bộ tổ đang làm việc bên dưới. Đúng là chiếc tháp canh phiên bản lông lá và răng nanh chính hiệu của chúng tôi. Ngày tháng trôi qua, và sự lột xác này nói thật là vi diệu chẳng khác nào phép màu. Không phải kiểu phép màu hỗn loạn đại dương của tôi đâu nhé, mà là ma thuật thực thụ, kiểu ma thuật của con người cơ. Thứ phép màu khiến mọi người cùng chung tay góp sức, biến đất đá thô kệch thành những thứ có giá trị. Cuối cùng con đập cũng đã hoàn thành, dẫu còn thô sơ nhưng cực kỳ đa di năng, by bumping up the water level just enough for the irrigation. The man-made ditch wound its way from the dam straight to the crop fields, looking pretty janky and wobbly, but hey, water was actually pushing through it, sending legit flowing water right into ready-to-go dirt. When that initial wave hit the freshly tilled soil under the golden afternoon sun, I kid you not, 3 people actually shed happy tears. Chunks of potato were dropped deep into the earth, dusted down with a good layer of wood ash, while wheat seeds got tossed across designated plots in the clearing. Sure, the rows were super crooked and the plant spacing looked totally scuffed, making any certified farmer literally want to cry. Yet those seeds were dropping roots and water was finally hitting them. So honestly, that was a huge W. Meanwhile, back at the main camp, actual houses were being thrown up, legit ones at that, featuring thick stone walls sturdy enough to block howling winds, solid timber beams capable of holding heavy loads, and thatch roofs, stacked so thick you could comfortably ride out a brutal winter blizzard underneath them. They were definitely rough, lumpy, and leaned, at weird angles that defied every rule of modern architecture. But they were standing tall and keeping the interior bone dry. One by one, families finally ditched their collapsing mud shacks to move into genuine stone dwellings, and man, the sheer looks on their faces were completely wholesome, no cap. You'd see a mother carefully carrying her kid into a home with actual walls, or some old man gently running his palm across solid, unyielding stone, while silent tears streamed down his weathered cheeks. plus little kids sprinting in and out of doorways, simply because doorways were finally a thing. The tribe even went out of their way to build me a noticeably larger house, which I never asked for. Yet I didn't turn down either, because I'm not totally clueless. It featured proper stone walls and a solid roof, giving more than enough space for me, Lena, and Blood Fawn, though that massive beast took up roughly 60% of the floor footprint. A communal hall was put together as well, serving as a massive timber shelter for town meetings and group feasts, when everyone packed in there for dinner on the opening night, sharing meals under a proper ceiling while chatting, laughing, and playfully arguing whose house was built better. It was the loudest the camp had ever sounded, a genuinely joyful kind of loud. While I stood outside our new cabin under the starry night, watching the warm firelight flicker through the stone-framed windows dotted across the settlement, Lena walked up and handed me some hot soup. "You actually pulled it off," she whispered softly. "They're thriving again." I took a slow sip, cast my eyes out over the neat rows of fresh homes, watched the irrigation canal gleam brightly under the moonlight, and looked toward the dark fields where invisible seeds were already working their magic deep underground. "Trust me, this is only the beginning," I replied. "Sure, those crops still require constant attention, and our housing situation could definitely use a serious glow-up. On top of that, leveling up our fighters is a must, just like securing some actual heavy-duty firepower. Gathering extra supplies and beefing up our walls are huge priorities." Yet standing there in the morning sun, a grin just crept onto my face anyway. It only lasted a heartbeat, but hey, we finally locked down a legitimate foundation to build on. Gazing around, the place is legitimately giving off real hometown vibes now. Time for a quick progress check. Wrapping up my inaugural 7 days as the big boss, how's our water network looking? Fully online and flowing beautifully. As for agriculture, seeds have been officially sown, with both spuds and grain firmly taking root in the dirt. Moving on to real estate, upwards of 12 solid structures have been erected from pure stone to keep the nasty weather out. Plus, that massive public gathering spot isn't just finished, it's actively popping off with evening feasts. And the overall mood of the camp, it has totally skyrocketed from a grim death watch into genuine hype for the future, complete with the sound of kids actually giggling out there. You love to hear on the regular, even if my vocal cords are completely fried from barking out. Non-stop orders all day long, getting some shut-eye inside my freshly minted masonry. Crib, sandwiched between Lena and an absolute unit of a canine, has frankly been top tier. Barely a fortnight prior, my life was actively flashing before my eyes while I hemorrhaged all over some random, uncharted forest floor, completely pantless to boot. Fast forward to today, and I'm proudly rocking a loyal clan, a cozy base, a working agricultural setup, a militia running drills, a literal leopard shifter for a partner, a flame-spitting dire wolf, a magical piece of jewelry stacked with fat stacks of loot, and some seriously OP goblin armament schematics capable of flipping this entire reality upside down. Honestly, that is a pretty massive W for a dude who supposedly kicked the bucket. On the flip side, my trusty tactical bludgeon was literally disintegrating in my hands. To be fair, that piece of gear had survived some absolute insanity. Brawling with a hellhound, turning a horde of greenskins into chopped liver, playing baseball with giant scavenger birds, and totally wiping out a battalion of mounted beast riders. Not to mention completely nuking that wooden forest sentinel. Toss in endless combat tutorials, and you can see why my raggedy weapon, which had never left my side since the second day of this crazy trip, was currently giving off major dog toy meets Louisville Slugger energy, looking suspiciously like it had been chucked into a bonfire, before being disrespectfully wedged under a heavy gate. My personal defense setup was also painfully cooked, that Wolf Clan cuirass I managed to swipe was sporting far more gouges and heavy impact craters than a beat-up junker in the middle of a monster truck rally. If I caught even a single heavy haymaker right now, going into battle completely bare-chested would be my only option left. An outcome that, despite providing an undeniably epic visual flex, offered absolutely zero strategic advantage. TLDR, my equipment was utter garbage. The kit my troops were hauling around was somehow even more busted, and trying to establish an unstoppable armed force using only twigs and positive vibes just wasn't going to cut it. Securing some legit, high-grade alloys was mandatory. Specifically, we needed iron, which meant tracking down or a resource strictly found inside mining shafts. A trip straight into the high peaks is happening because I need to hunt down some iron. I dropped casually over our morning meal. Pausing or chewing, Lena just slowly arched a single, perfectly sculpted brow my way. You mean those exact same high peaks currently swarming with lethal abominations and environmental hazards designed to slaughter us? Those mountains? Yup, spot on, I replied. Exhaling heavily, she gave me that specific, exhausted look. The quiet story of a woman who has long since made peace with her past choices. Bet you are, totally. I put together a solid squad for this expedition, bringing along 5 top-tier hunters, with Bloodfang leading the pack, obviously. Plus a secret weapon, an ancient half-orc named Molkagu. Kagu was something else entirely. Just picture a super old, heavily hunched, and almost blind dude who was totally obsessed with rocks. His younger days were spent crawling through damp caves, hoarding stones while mumbling nonsense about earth blood, and driving everyone around him crazy, while the tribe just wrote him off as a harmless weirdo. I looked at him as the closest thing I'd ever find to a geologist. A sample of low-grade iron ore was handed over to him by me, and he pressed his face right against it, as if he were laying on a kiss, giving it a good sniff, a rub, and practically licking the thing before saying, yeah. Seen this before at Black Tooth Canyon, heavy stone, dark color, with shiny little flecks hidden inside. There's tons of it up there, about a day and a half north. Just follow the dry riverbed past 3 crooked hemlocks, then swing east into the ravine, though his face suddenly drained of color, warning that something massive lives out there with giant claw marks. And a reek of sulfur, though he'd never actually seen it, nor did he want to. A reek of sulfur and giant claw marks? Naturally, a guardian monster had to be squatting right on my iron supply. Because of course it was, I chuckled cheerfully, completely unfazed. Grabbed 7 days of rations because we were rolling out in an hour. Lena was left behind to hold down the fort with Bark. Someone capable had to keep the combat drills going, and watch out for any retaliation from the Bloodscar clan. She shot me a look that somehow managed to convey about 47 distinct worries in less than a second, before giving me a parting kiss that whispered, "Better come back breathing, or I'll murder you myself," and waved us off. One of our little trek went down without a hitch, as we hiked through increasingly rugged mountain wilderness. Kagu shed his shuffling old man persona, and turned into some kind of absolute mountain goat savant, suddenly super light on his feet with laser-sharp vision, and finding hidden trails the rest of us couldn't even spot. The guy was literally built for this gig, constantly picking up rocks, giving them a sniff, and tossing them aside with annoyed grunts, acting like a total geological sommelier. Night 1 was spent camped out beneath a towering cliff face, with distant roars echoing in the dark, though nothing ever dared approach us. Bloodfang's intimidating. I'm the scariest apex predator here. Vibe was definitely putting in overtime. Day 2 brought us right to those 3 crooked hemlock trees, and as soon as we turned east, the surrounding atmosphere shifted instantly to something heavier and warmer, thick with that unmistakable, rotting egg sulfur stench. The foliage grew darker while the ground turned rugged and rocky. A transformation was overtaking the stones themselves, taking on a heavier, darker quality with a metallic glint. I grabbed one, finding it way heavier than a normal rock. It was pitch black and hard as steel. Embedded throughout the iron ore were tiny crystalline specks. My heart was doing backflips because the grade looked seriously solid. We scattered out to track down the main vein. Within minutes, a low, excited whistle came from one of the hunters. I sprinted over in a flash. A sheer cliff face of dark, gleaming, iron-rich rock stood before us. Stretching upward into the mountain was a massive, exposed vein. There was enough iron here to arm 100 tribes. Jackpot, absolute mega jackpot, the ultimate jackpot of all time. Every single person was grinning from ear to ear. Kagaya was actually tearing up, running his hands over the ore like he had just reunited with a long-lost child. And then Bloodfang totally killed the vibe. Every hair on its body shot straight up. A rumbling growl vibrated straight through the ground into my boots. My eyes locked onto a massive cave, gaping directly above the ore vein, filled with pure, abyssal blackness. Drifting out from that darkness came a suffocating wall of sulfur stench mixed with rotting meat, so utterly thick you could practically chew it. Shoving Kagaya and the hunters behind me, I yelled out. A roar exploded from deep inside the cavern. It wasn't just a roar, it felt like a full-blown earthquake. The mountain itself shook violently as loose rocks tumbled down. Two glowing, coal-red eyes peeled open from the pitch darkness. Each one was the size of my head before it finally stepped out. Picture a bear, but scale it up to the size of a small elephant. Now swap out all its fur for heavy black obsidian armor plates. Glowing red cracks pulsed between the plating, making it look like a walking volcano, complete with a mouth full of daggers, and dripping with corrosive acid. Literally, its spit was hissing and melting the stone floor beneath it. It stood on four massive legs, ending in claws, built to tear through solid rock like it was warm butter. A magma pit beast, the ultimate mine guardian. This was the exact reason nobody had ever dared mine this iron. Screaming in panic, an old hunter yelled that it's the monster. It spits lava fireballs, and standard weapons can't even scratch it. The beast fixed its burning gaze right on me and roared so deafeningly loud. My ears wouldn't stop ringing. It was a beast general rank, at least mid-tier. This nightmare was an absolute, serious threat. Bloodfang shouted back, zero hesitation. My wolf thrives for this exact vibe. Back range support only. Keep Kago hidden, I yelled out loud. A smirk crept across my face, because honestly, I had been craving something to punch. Stepping forward with my war club raised, every muscle locked and loaded. On its hind legs rose the massive magma pit beast, its furnace mouth gaping wide, and launched a lava fireball at me 1/2 meter wide, glowing orange-red while the air warped around it. Everything in its path instantly caught fire. Did I dodge or seek cover? Did I make the smart call? Hell no. I swung my heavy war club right at the fireball, like a pro baseball player. Full power, flawless form, aiming straight for the fences. Kaboom! The club collided with the lava ball. Instantly, the front half of my war club vaporized, turning wood, teeth, and stone to ash in a blinding flash. Debris scattered everywhere while the fireball got deflected sideways, blasting a crater into the cliff wall. Massive enough to fit a wagon, yet I stood totally alive, unscathed, and already moving fast. My trusty club was reduced to 1/2 a stick of charcoal, so I tossed it away. Who needs weapons when you've got hands? Bloodfang, oh yeah, Bloodfang, charged from the flank like a dark red missile, taking dead aim at the beast's joints. The monster swiped at the wolf and missed completely, while Bloodfang's claws raked across its armor plating, spitting sparks like a grindstone. Meanwhile, I had already closed and righted its front, locking both hands onto its wrist with an iron grip, though its foreleg was thick as a massive tree trunk and encased in tough volcanic armor. I grabbed it as if I were shaking hands with death itself. Then I pulled off a stunt that made every single spectator completely question reality, lifting it up using my hips, core, and back legs, with every muscle in my King Kong body firing at max capacity. The magma pit beast, a monstrous creature the size of a small house, was hoisted off the ground and violently slammed sideways, straight into the cliff face amid a booming earthquake and rockslide. Cracks spiderwebbed across the beast's armor, eliciting a shriek of absolute disbelief and pure agony. A beast that had never once been budged by anything just got used as a literal battering ram against its own home mountain. Before it could even recover, I was already mounted on its neck. Bam after bam, heavy fists rained down like a relentless sledgehammer hitting iron, devoid of any weapons or fancy techniques. Only two massive hands as wide as dinner plates remained, backed by the brute power of some primeval deity, smashing the magma beast's skull directly into the stone floor. Cracked armor plates gave way as dark crimson blood splattered with every single blow, driving deeper and deeper into the fracturing obsidian shell. Frantically, the creature thrashed around, rolling over while trying to squash me flat against the jagged boulders. I stayed glued to its back, riding it out like the maddest cowboy in a rodeo. Bloodfang swarmed in, attacking every blind spot, from vulnerable eyes to exposed joints, keeping the massive beast completely disoriented, while I relentlessly pounded its skull into absolute rubble. Though a mere 15 minutes ticked by, it dragged on like 15 brutal hours before the monster finally lost steam. Growing weaker by the second, its terrifying roars faded into pathetic whimpers. Wild thrashing quickly degraded into helpless twitching, setting up one final, devastating blow, putting my entire back into a full-power downward strike. Crunch. Its skull completely caved in as its eyes instantly went pitch black. The massive body convulsed once, twice, and then went completely motionless, slipping off the lifeless corpse. I casually shook the hot lava blood and brain splatter off my knuckles to inspect my condition. Only a few minor scrapes remained from the beast's violent thrashing, which were already vanishing under a soothing green shimmer. Easy peasy, I muttered, brushing myself off like I had just taken out the trash. Standing frozen 20 meters away, my fellow hunters stared in disbelief. With jaws dropped so low a flock of birds could have built a nest inside them. Peeking cautiously from behind a boulder, Kagu wept tears of sheer joy and lingering terror all at once. One poor hunter's bow shook so violently that the arrow rattled right off the string, prompting him to stammer out, You literally wrestled that thing and tossed it at a mountain?" "Yeah, I totally did," I replied. Before long, we got to work harvesting the fallen beast, stripping multiple sturdy plates from its thick obsidian armor. It made for incredible shielding material, and we even managed to extract its magic core, which was practically glowing, coming in at the size of my own fist. The core radiated intense volcanic heat. Our storage baskets were soon packed to the brim with all our collected samples, featuring multiple types and varying grades, providing more than enough materials for future testing and planning. I scanned our surroundings. A downed megaboss monster lay dead. A rich iron vein stood completely exposed and unguarded. Prime armor plating was secured. The magic core was bagged, and the mission was a total success. "Kagaya," I said with a grin, "you totally struck the mother lode for us today. That's top-tier work right there. Once we get this smithy up and running, you're getting first pick of the best workstation." Overwhelmed with emotion, the old man just sat there blubbering total gibberish. Amidst his joyful tears, our crew charted the spot and marched back home, with heavy baskets overflowing with or samples and beast parts. Every single hunter strutted like they owned the place. After watching their chief barehandedly take down a lava monster in epic fashion, only to casually break down mining logistics right after, they would gladly follow this absolute unit straight into the depths of the underworld, which, judging by how things were playing out, they totally would. Expedition scorecard update. Massive iron ore deposit secured with high-grade quality. Guardian lava monster boss flattened using purely bare fists. An elephant-sized beast hurled directly into a stone cliff. Volcanic obsidian armor plates successfully looted. Boss-level magic core secured, though war club status is totally destroyed. RIP to a faithful companion, since a replacement weapon is badly needed. Ideally constructed from actual metal this time, while Kaga's happiness meter is completely off the charts. So the next move is building a forge to smelt the ore and upgrade my primitive stick-wielding squad into a hardcore, iron-wielding army. The Age of Stone was officially dead. The Age of Steel was about to kick off, and I was ready to punch raw metal into submission until it finally cooperated. All right, so the tribe had food, houses, soldiers, and plenty of iron ore. Yet what were we still missing? Booze. No, seriously, this wasn't just about getting sloshed for fun. Even though, honestly, after all the chaos I had survived, I totally deserved a drink. This was pure strategy. A cold, calculated, alcohol-driven master plan. Here is the business blueprint. The local alcohol scene in this world was downright pathetic. Orcs survived on sour fruit sludge. Humans settled for mediocre grape wine. Even the dwarves, who were legendary drinkers, merely topped out at strong but totally unrefined brews. Not a single soul across this entire continent had ever heard of distillation. Nobody had figured out that boiling booze and catching the steam yields much stronger alcohol. Nobody except me, armed with a single chemistry concept. From Earth, knowing that fantasy fruit, packed with insane sugar content, equals a product so hyper-valuable, it could literally buy an entire army. And who would pay top dollar for revolutionary booze? Dwarves, the exact same master smiths whose talents I desperately needed to bring goblin blueprints to life, transforming into magical firearms, those exact dwarves whose ancient smithies could equip my fighters with legitimate gear. Phase 1 of the blueprint involves brewing legendary booze. Phase 2 lets those dwarves catch a whiff of it. Phase 3 is watching them sprint over. Phase 4 means swapping liquor for weapons and alliances from a blacksmith. Talk about peak capitalism. Even across a fantasy realm, the invisible hand of the market never fails, provided you prime it with booze first. Gathering Mora alongside the tribe's most trusted women, I kicked off Operation Moonshine. Uncovering the sweetest fruit imaginable in mountain loads was today's mission, and honeyberries hit the spot, growing in tight clusters, Their juice tastes sweeter than candy, while local birds go absolutely feral for them, making this a win. Moreover, I need every pot, yard, barrel, and bowl we own, plus extra massive ones and tree bark. So bring me the thickest bamboo tubes you can track down, keeping whole sections with intact nodes, and everyone scattered instantly, without a single person questioning why, because by now, the entire tribe had learned that whenever stands started asking for bizarre items, pure magic was about to go down. Hence, I ventured deep into the woods with Lena to source secret ingredients, namely natural yeast substitutes, as we hunted down specific moldy fruits, fungal colonies thriving beneath ancient tree roots, and a distinct plant featuring purple-red, serrated leaves that gave off a spicy, mystical scent. Lena sniffed it out using her superhuman senses, letting out a breath and saying, "This hits different," as she inhaled the aroma. Weirdly addictive, absolutely elite. So grab the whole batch. By afternoon, my makeshift distillery was up and running by the stream, occupying a shaded flat clearing, removed from camp, stacked high with gorgeous purple honeyberries, bamboo segments, clay pots of every conceivable size, and my mystery fermentation additives, already crushed and primed. Time to cook. Step 1. I declare to my baffled audience of tribal women, is washing every berry while tossing out any rotten ones, followed by smashing skins, seeds, and all until it forms a total mash. I demonstrated this by dumping a pile right into a stone mortar and pounding it into purple oblivion, sending sweet juice splashing everywhere with an incredible aroma, which instantly got everyone smashing away, as 12 mortars operated simultaneously, fruit guts flying, women cracking up, and kids low-key sneaking berry juice behind everyone's backs. Phase 2 brings the secret starter as my smashed leaves, moldy fruit chunks, and special fungal powder get blended into each batch by precise ratios. Varying proportions filled different pots, as I tagged them 1 through 12. Control groups are an absolute must for science. Even when you're roughing it as a caveman. Phase 3, pour water and mix. Hit that exact consistency. Neither too heavy nor too watery, pure Goldilocks viscosity. Phase 4 transfers it to the massive jars, filling only 70% because the juice needs breathing room. Phase 5. The magic part had me sealing every jar with clay, while pushing a long, hollow, bamboo straw right through the seal. The tube's opposite end dropped straight into a separate water-filled jar, acting as a one-way gas valve. Fermentation, CO2 bubbles out, and nothing creeps back in. Watching bubbles rise in the water jar, I explained, meant the juice was finally coming alive inside. All of us stared at those sealed vessels like parents watching eggs about to hatch, which metaphorically they totally were. 12 jars of experimental fruit wine stood tightly sealed beneath a shaded canopy, each boasting a unique recipe. Now we play the waiting game as days ticked by, and I hovered over the jars obsessively, checking temperature, sounds, and smells through the seals. Day 3 brought bubbles, gorgeous, steady, glorious bubbles, surging through the bamboo tubes into the water jars. The fermentation was totally cooking. A low-key victory dance might have happened. Lena totally pretended she didn't notice. 2 weeks later, the bubbling slowed down and died out completely. Fermentation was done, meaning it was taste test time. Jar number 3 got unsealed since my gut swore it was the winner, instantly blasting an alcohol vapor cloud right at my face. So intensely my eyes watered up. That aroma alone could knock out a small raccoon. Sweet berry notes collided with a punch of raw booze, strong enough to strip paint as I took a sip of pure fire. Liquid fire cascaded down my throat. My esophagus briefly considered filing an official complaint. Then the warmth rushed in, radiating outward from my stomach like an internal sunrise all the way to my fingertips and toes. Beneath that burn lived a smooth, rich honeyberry sweetness. Oh yes, I breathed out, my gaze slightly unfocused. This is the absolute good stuff. And that was only the unrefined batch. It's officially time to kick off Phase 2. My secret weapon had already been built by Bark's crew, a primitive yet surprisingly functional still, consisting of a wide-bottomed clay heating pot, topped with an inverted funnel-shaped condenser that linked straight into a curved hollow clay tube running through a cold water bath right before dripping down. Into a collection jar, pour the fermented wine in. Fire it up because alcohol evaporates first. due to having a lower boiling point than water. Huge shout out to high school chemistry for this. Steam rises, hits the condenser, and turns back to liquid, gliding smoothly through the cooling tube, before dropping out the opposite end as pure, concentrated spirit. I lit the fire up, everyone stared, thick smoke billowed out. The pot started bubbling, and then drip, 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 went the crystal clear liquid, trickling right out of the tube straight into the jar. The pungent scent slammed everyone within 10 feet like an absolute truck, giving off a hardcore weapons-grade alcohol aroma. I managed to scoop up half a cup of the very first run, which happened to be the strongest batch. Taking the tiniest sip instantly made my vision go blurry and sent a sudden wave of heat through my body. Even my legendary King Kong constitution, the exact physique that easily shrugs off monster claws and crazy magical blasts, fell an immediate buzz from just one drop. Now we're talking, I whispered in absolute awe. That right there is Flame of the Abyss. The fake name I made up to fool Copperbeard was suddenly legit. I had actually brought the recipe to life that very night, hosting the Blackstone Tribe's premier tasting event ever. Standard fermented wine was handed out to all workers, 1 sip per person. Their reactions were wild, eyes popping out, faces turning bright red, coughing fits, followed by huge grins. This is actual booze right here. Everything I've ever drank before was basically water. My whole body feels so warm before the inner circle stepped up, consisting of Bark, Mora, and a few other trusted folks, who finally got to sample the distilled version, with Bark taking a huge gulp that turned his face the exact shade of a burning sunset, while veins bulged on his neck. He stood completely paralyzed right there for 5 whole seconds, before roaring out, "That's what a real man drinks. Everything else is just horse piss," while Mora, the cautious elder, took the tiniest sip imaginable and watched her eyes shoot wide open. There's actual life energy pulsing inside this drink. My spiritual senses feel completely dialed in now. She stared right at me like I had just pulled off another miracle. Interesting, those honeyberries apparently possessing some mystical traits, which managed to survive the entire distillation and brewing phase. My liquor wasn't just low-key potent, it was straight-up magic juice, making it low-key fire for selling to dwarves who totally flexed on both a heavy kick and spellbound vibes. Right then and there, I dropped a major memo to my inner squad that this distillery was completely top secret, a strictly restricted zone meant for VIPs only. Anyone who leaked the secret formula would catch these hands. Nobody needed that warning spelled out twice for them. I safely locked up the prime batches inside wax-sealed bamboo tubes. Totally portable, spill-proof, and low-key aesthetic, giving off-peak professional packaging for a luxury item. Then I dispatched Bark alongside a minor trade caravan, heading straight for the closest dwarf outpost right on the edge of the Blackstone Mountains, carrying a cover load of regular animal furs, plus a couple of budget-tier magic cores for camouflage, along with the actual gold mine, several tubes of raw, yet insanely good honeyberry spirit, complete with clear instructions. Hunt down any random dwarf, pop 1 tube open, and let them catch a whiff, before stepping back to watch the magic happen naturally. I didn't roll out there myself since the tribe needed protection, though honestly, I didn't even have to. The second any dwarf got a taste of what was inside those bamboo cylinders, word would spread all across the mountain range faster than a flash flood, landing straight in the hands of Copperbeard's stone mare, who had finally realized that the unhinged half-orc who handed him the recipe actually pulled the stunt off. And then those dwarves would track me down. Back at the base camp, production was running nonstop around the clock, with every single batch shining brighter than the last as our crafting skills leveled up, while the warm, dizzying aroma of elite moonshine ended up becoming a permanent vibe all over the Blackstone Valley. Business plan status, pioneer distilled spirits in a universe that had zero clue they existed. Engineered a product more addictive to dwarves than shiny gold. Set up an underground secret manufacturing hub. Dropped samples at dwarf camps as total bait. Accidentally brewed magic liquor packed with life energy attributes as a major bonus perk. Named it the exact same thing I used to trick a dwarf weeks prior, retroactively clearing my name for being a total fraud, absolute big brain play. Projected revenue once the dwarven masses taste it. Literally infinite. Some folks build empires using steel blades, while others build theirs with pure magic. Frankly speaking, I'm brewing mine with moonshine right now, in low-key. That has got to be the most clutch move ever. If you'll excuse me for a second, though, jar number 7 needs my immediate attention. My gut tells me that batch is going to slap even harder. So let's talk about Copperbeard. That dwarf I totally scammed out a magic ring, using fake wine science because somehow he actually found me. Seriously, the guy possesses the sniffer of a bloodhound that has been custom-tuned exclusively for liquor. Faint booze fumes were being pumped out by my tiny distillery, drifting across miles and miles of rugged mountain wilderness. And this absolute legend hunted down the scent like a heat, seeking missile built purely out of beard and desperation. An intense strategy session with Bark was underway, as we tried figuring out how to mine iron with zero tools, zero knowledge, and zero metallurgists whatsoever, until the perimeter guards finally signaled an incoming visitor. Stepping up to the gate, lo and behold, there he was, Copperbeard, Stone Mare himself, balancing on his tiptoes right outside our wooden fence. His nose was twitching like a jittery rabbit in a bakery, eyes completely glazed, with the manic stare of someone who just discovered a brand new religion. That smell, he muttered quietly to himself under his breath. It's definitely the fire brew, faint yet completely real, and I'd recognize it anywhere. Right behind him, 2 younger dwarves were dragging along, enormous backpacks stuffed to the brim with hardware. Hammers, tongs, heavy chisels, precise measuring instruments, and essentially an entire portable blacksmith shop, slung across their backs alongside his personal apprentice. The man literally brought his entire crew just for booze. Copperbeard, I hollered out, throwing my arms wide, flashing a massive grin like a shark at a fish convention. What on earth brings you to our humble little village? My greeting was completely ignored by him, who instead grabbed my arm and shook it so violently my teeth rattled. The brew, where is it? Let me taste it right now. I tracked that scent for 3 whole days. Sure, my apprentices think I've completely lost my mind, and they're probably right, but I caught a whiff of it and simply had to show up. An apologetic smile was flashed by his apprentices standing right behind him, giving off that universal vibe of, "Yes, our boss is totally like this, we are so sorry." Adopting my best reluctant host expression, I replied, well, about that, so far I've only managed to whip up some super rough prototypes, which are barely even a shadow of the true flame of the abyss, meaning I'd honestly be too embarrassed to serve it to a connoisseur of your caliber. Totally fabrication, of course. Why, brewed up could deadass knock out a horse. Yet you never drop your best cards first. Negotiation 101. Prototypes are totally chill. Copperbeard literally yelled, "I'll taste anything." Bet. Phase 1 of operation. Get Free Blacksmith was low-key working flawlessly, guiding them toward the meeting hall. I poured Copperbeard a small cup of my first gin, distilled spirit, which he held beneath his nose and sniffed, before his entire face flashed through about 17 different emotions in 2 seconds. Then, taking a sip, his face turned the shade of a volcano. His eyes watered, his beard quivered, and he sat completely still for 5 seconds while his brain processed whatever his tongue was signaling. Good, 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 3 goods. The highest possible dwarf alcohol rating. It is rough. It is young. It needs aging, yet the fire hits right. The soul of it is totally solid. Brother, you're a genius. Clutching that cup like it held the meaning of life, while I casually pointed out my warriors, training with their garbage weapons, sigh, if only my brave soldiers possessed proper equipment matching their courage, but alas, we lack a smith, a forge, and any means to arm them properly. Watching Copperbeard's eyes track my gesture, he spotted stone axes, bone spears, and rusty scraps, causing that deep ancestral revulsion inside every dwarf at seeing bad metalwork to ignite like a powder keg. Unacceptable, he roared, slamming his cup down. Warriors wielding those. That is an insult to steel, an insult to the craft, an insult to everything. Leaping up and pacing furiously, he then whipped around to face me. Brother, I will help you. Mountains have iron. Point me in the direction, and I will find the ore. I will build you a forge. I will craft your warriors proper weapons. Just keep me fed and keep that. Glancing lovingly at his cup. Keep that coming. And once you perfect the real flame of the abyss, hook me up with a few barrels. Deal? Pretending to wrestle with this incredibly difficult decision for roughly half a second. Deal? I just traded moonshine for a master blacksmith and his entire workshop. The cost Benefit ratio was so insanely broken, it felt straight up illegal. Copperbeard wasn't wasting any time. His apprentices had tools unpacked and ready within hours. A mountain slope was chosen by him before the afternoon hit. After sniffing some random rocks, "Dwarves are wild, I swear," he shouted. "Dig right here," while Bark led a squad of warriors, equipped with Copperbeard's pro-tier mining gear. And they actually struck iron ore in less than half a day. And honestly, it was top-tier stuff. The dwarf was literally buzzing with hype, petting that dark red mineral like it was his favorite puppy. Not quite Iron Forge quality, but totally solid, he muttered. "We can totally work with this." The following week turned out to be the absolute peak. 7 days in Blackstone history as Copperbeard designed and managed the build of a legitimate smelting furnace, crafted from stone and special clay, tucked right into the hillside for that natural draft airflow. We fashioned a massive bellows out of a whole ox hide, stretched tightly across a wooden frame. For warriors worked it in rotating shifts, pumping steady streams of air into the chamber, until the flames turned blindingly white-hot. Raw ore was hauled in by the mining crews, while processing teams smashed it down into furnace-ready chunks. Charcoal fuel was supplied non-stop by the logging squads. Our entire tribe was functioning like a full-blown factory. And then the main event arrived, the very first smelt. Every single person crowded around to watch. Copperbeard stood shirtless, drenched in sweat, monitoring the furnace like a head surgeon, closely tracking a patient on the table. Every degree of temperature had to be exact. The timing had to be flawless as hours ticked away. The furnace screamed with trapped heat, making the air shimmer. "Now!" Copperbeard roared, screaming to open the tap. His apprentices instantly knocked out the clay plug at the base, and outpoured liquid iron glowing a fierce golden red, cascading like molten lava straight into the sand molds. It was easily the most gorgeous, terrifying, and promising view I had ever laid eyes on here. The whole tribe erupted into wild cheers. People were crying, hugging, and dancing. Iron, finally. Actual, tangible, usable metal. For the first time in all of Blackstone history. That opening batch yielded heavy axe blanks, sturdy farming tools, reinforced metal stakes, and one legendary piece, my brand new weapon. Copperbeard even helped me forge it with his own hands. I brought the heavy sledge down, wielding a massive beast of a tool no ordinary dwarf could lift, while he guided every single swing with absolute master precision. Clang, 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 sparks flying wild as hot metal folded over itself, impurities purging out through hours of relentless hammering and heating, striking again and again until the final product emerged as a solid iron war club, stretching nearly 2 meters long and thick as my own forearm, studded brutally with beast fangs right at the business end, dark as midnight and heavy as absolute sin, tipping the scales at several hundred pounds. Lifting it effortlessly with one hand, I tested the lethal balance, feeling every ounce of its insane heft, and experiencing the undeniable lethality of proper metal locked in my grip. For the very first time, I smashed it against a massive boulder. Boom, the stone didn't just crack, it blew completely to pieces, sending lethal fragments flying in every direction. While the iron club didn't even pick up a single scratch, absolutely insane. Copperbeard started clapping his hands enthusiastically, his eyes shining bright with pure craftsman pride. "I'm calling this one stone crusher. Truly worthy of you, brother." I ran my fingers along the cold, dark metal and grinned. No more flimsy wooden sticks for us. No more makeshift garbage on the battlefield. This was an actual weapon, a genuinely terrifying, skull-crushing, boulder-deleting, army-routing piece of hardware. And honestly, this was just the prototype. The forge was already pumping out heavy axes and razor-sharp spearheads for all my warriors within days. My soldiers were about to go from stick-wielding amateurs straight to absolute iron-armed juggernauts as the thunderous sound of hammers hitting anvils echoed loud and clear through the valley. The literal heartbeat of a tribe being reborn from the ashes. Copperbeard and his apprentices ground away from dawn till dusk, teaching our own people the basics of smithing right alongside their own master crafting. Every single resonant ring of metal striking metal served as another nail hammered firmly into the coffin of the Blackstone tribe. Status update: current inventory. Master Dwarf Blacksmith successfully recruited. Cost: some moonshine iron ore deposit. Secured an active working smelting furnace. Fully operational first batch of iron weapons forged personal loadout. Stone Crusher solid iron war club. Achieved troops getting re-equipped with high-tier iron gear. In progress Copperbeard's sobriety level. Highly questionable my negotiation metrics. Flexing hard legendary trade summary, I traded a dwarf some fruit wine. And he literally handed me an entire military-industrial revolution. This right here is why I always preach. Never sleep on the absolute supremacy of good booze. Ancient empires were built by it on Earth. And right here, another one is being shaped. Now, if you'll excuse me, gotta bounce and go crush some rocks with my new toy, low-key. Strictly for testing purposes, of course. Definitely not, because of the total vibe and insanely fun. Spring finally hit the Blackstone Valley. Like a massive glow-up wrapped in warm sunlight. Remember that desolate rocky wasteland? I cleared completely by hand. That rugged patch of stones where I essentially invented farming from scratch for a tribe that had never even seen a seed planted. Just look at it now, filled with endless rows of thick, thriving potato crops. With leaves so lush and deeply green, they were flexing hard in the sun. Underneath the surface, the tubers were so massive. They were actually splitting open the dirt just to break free. Right beside them stood stalks of golden wheat, heavy heads drooping, as if they were paying direct homage to yours truly, gently swaying in the breeze. Like a cinematic slow-mo shampoo commercial, we actually grew food. Out of plain dirt on purpose. My crew of former cave dwellers had officially evolved into farmers. And the harvest rolled in fast, like an absolute freight train of carbs. If someone told me a month ago watching wheat grow would make me tear up, I would have clapped back instantly, but standing right there, gazing at that golden grain, planted by my people's own hands and soil, we cleared ourselves. Yeah, I felt things, deeply manly things, very stoic warrior chief vibes. That definitely, absolutely, did not involve misty eyes. Yet the fields weren't even the best part. Clang, clang, clang. That exact sound. The rhythmic percussive beat of hammer hitting anvil, echoing from our new smithy, was pure auditory art. The ultimate soundtrack of a civilization leveling up live. Stepping inside the forge, Copperbeard was completely in his zone. Shirtless, dripping sweat, muscles completely pumped and bulging, while barking orders at my apprentice. Smiths with the tough love warmth of a drill sergeant, who might be a bit tipsy. You absolute muppet. The core needs to glow white-hot like pristine mountain snow, not just dull red on the surface. Run it back, keep those tongs steady, and lock your wrists. Quench it right now. Hear the sharp hiss? That right there is the sweet song of quality steel. While my apprentices were low-key terrified of him, they were also picking things up, way faster than any students he'd ever trained before. Extra food rations and booze perks were promised to anybody who could nail basic bladesmithing, because that was the deal I made. Driving motivation straight through the stomach, the Guido way. Already, the forge was putting out low-key, insane numbers. Piled high along one wall sat dozens of beaten-up blades. Broad-bladed. Thick-backed choppers built totally for brutal orc combat. Rows of spearheads stood sharp, barbed, and looking fierce. Not fancy or sleek, but straight-up functional. Every single one could shred right through goblin. Leather and wolf rider armor like it was wet tissue paper. Over at another bench, women were busy stitching together thick leather armor pieces and piecing together wooden shields, beefed up with leather strips for basic defense, which was still infinitely better than running shirtless and praying for the best. My entire army was finally getting geared up with actual metal. Grabbing a fresh war knife, I flicked the blade, causing it to sing out with a crisp, cold ring before testing the edge against my thumbnail. It was sharp enough to shave with, not that I actually needed to shave. Given my half-orc facial hair situation, which was still totally manageable, not bad I told Copperbeard. This should slice through goblin and wolf rider armor without a hitch, causing the dwarf to snort proudly. Who do you think taught them? Obviously. These idiots move slow, but they hit like absolute trucks, making them ideal for hammering steel. Give me another month, and I will teach them pattern welding. Then we're talking legit blades. Squinting at my battered wolf clan chest plate, he added, and I am forging you proper, full armor soon. You walking around in that junk just embarrasses me as a master craftsman. Bursting into laughter, I tossed the knife to a nearby warrior, who had been drooling over it like a kid staring through a candy store window. Yours as the first reward. For the first apprentice to forge a passing gray blade. Catching it instantly, The guy turned purple with sheer joy and bowed so many times I genuinely thought he would tip over. Every other apprentice started hammering twice as hard right after. Competition breeds excellence, economics 101, and then came the ultimate cherry on top of an already flawless day. Shamamura came waddling over with several women in tow, carrying leaf-sealed clay pots, while the scent preceding them was so potent it was enough to freeze every hammer mid-swing. Sweet, warm, grainy, and unmistakably alcoholic, Lord Stanston. Master Copperbeard. It's ready. Mora was low-key glowing. Behold the inaugural batch, crafted straight from our homegrown wheat and spuds. Step up and take a sip. Every single orc freezing dead in their tracks across the forge. Every snout twitching intensely, and every throat swallowing hard against their will. Even the roaring flames seemed to pause as I grabbed a clay pot, snapped the leafy wax seal, and got smacked square in the face by a scent profile that was 50% fresh-baked bread, 30% crisp autumn orchard, and 20% pure questionable life choices. A cloudy amber liquid filled the vessel, looking ruggedly unfiltered, yet insanely promising. I took a swig, total wildfire down the pipe, an absolute roundhouse kick to the gut, with radiating heat flooding straight into my limbs. Beneath that intense burn lingered a starchy sweetness from the potatoes, a rich nuttiness from the wheat, and a deep earthy vibe whispering, I was grown right in your dirt by your own people, and I'm here to vibe with you. Good, I announced. That was the understatement of the century. I immediately passed the pot over to Copperbeard, who had literally been vibrating out of his boots with nervous hype. Skipping the polite sip entirely, he slammed down 3 massive, reckless gulps, then froze dead in his tracks with a crimson face, bulging eyes, and a dripping beard while his brain desperately tried to compute. Ash. The resulting exhale was practically a physical manifestation, a dense plume of pure, unadulterated alcohol vapor. Now that's the real punch. Rough as crushed gravel, and definitely needs some polishing, but the foundational structure is solid gold. Run this through a couple more distillation rounds using my exact method, and we're cooking up something legendary, brother. Man, you my absolute lucky charm. He clutched the earthen pot like a newborn infant, and stubbornly refused to let go. Swiveling toward Mora, I ordered, scale up production right this second. Route every single scrap of surplus grain straight to the brewery. This isn't just some casual weekend drink. It's officially our #1 export commodity. Then, turning my attention to the sea of hopeful, intensely parched faces before me, I declared, today marked the forging of our very first iron weapons. And now we're brewing our first batch of grain booze. Talk about a double flex. Every single person who put in work out in the fields, the smithing forge, or the brewing station gets a heavy meat ration tonight, alongside a full bowl of this fresh brew, while our top-performing warriors get double portions. Let's get it. Long live Lord Stanson. The deafening roar of approval practically blasted passing birds right out of the sky. That evening turned out to be, no cap, one of the greatest nights of my entire existence. A colossal bonfire crackled brightly in the central plaza, with chunks of meat sizzling and popping over the open flames. The whole tribe had gathered around, low-key lit, vibing in pure celebration instead of cowering in fear like before, feasting until they were totally stuffed, sipping on their harsh, fiery homemade booze, with the deep, mindful respect of folks who never had a single thing worth savoring in their lives. Copperbeard had flexed and claimed his own personal mega mug, hand-carved of course, holding court with his apprentices while spinning. Waili exagerati tales, about his glory days back at Iron Forge Hold, all while downing enough brew to float a literal boat. Meanwhile, Bark and the warriors were passing around the brand-new blades reverently, testing the edges and debating battle formations, taking occasional victory swigs, and grunting in pure satisfaction as kids sprinted everywhere, buzzing on sugar, excitement, and a general vibe of our tribe doesn't suck anymore. Lena sat right next to me, taking quiet sips with firelight dancing across her amber eyes. She looked totally peaceful and content, giving off major energy of someone who had spent their entire life running, and finally found somewhere safe to pull over. I took a long pull from my bowl of rough, homemade brew, tasting heavily of grain, fire, and pure hope. Gazing out at my people who were well-fed, armed, sheltered, and happy, Then my eyes drifted into the pitch-black darkness beyond the valley. Somewhere out there in the shadows, enemies were sharpening their own weapons. Somewhere Chief Guard was plotting his payback. Somewhere out there, much bigger and meaner threats were lurking. But tonight, right now, my tribe had iron blades, full bellies, cozy homes, growing fields, and enough moonshine to completely forget how dangerous the world really was. My ceramic bowl clinked softly against my iron arm guard, mixing booze with steel, blending warmth with an edge. That was the Blackstone tribe vibe now. Season finale scorecard, crops harvested, shining golden and glorious, grain alcohol flowing from our own harvest. Mass production of iron weapons officially online. Dwarf Mastersmith, permanently locked in with an endless supply of booze. Leather armor production kicked off, tribe happiness index at an all-time high. Copperbeard's blood alcohol level, probably detectable from outer space, and my feelings. Watching my tribe go wild. We're deeply complex and super warm, definitely. Not crying over going from bleeding out solo in a jungle to this. Not bad at all. Honestly pretty epic as I take another sip. Staring into the glowing embers with a grin, I finally uncorked our very first batch of fiery moonshine. As that wooden barrel finally popped open, trust me, a pungent reek slammed right into every single tribesman like a haymaker. Total silence fell over all nearby orcs, followed instantly by heavy drooling. Taking a swig, I felt the harsh liquid scorch a path, straight from my throat to my gut like an angry mini-dragon, zipping down a molten lava water slide. Was it fancy? Hell no. Was it smooth? Absolutely not. But in this brutal realm, for orcs who've been swilling rot gut, that tasted like a wet gym sock wrung out into a mud puddle. This stuff was absolute liquid gold, baby. Damn, that's got a kick, I declared while already picturing dollar signs. Well, not dollars. More like iron ingots and grain sacks, but same exact vibe. With business on my mind, I handpicked my crew, Lena, for scouting, because she can sniff out trouble from 3 miles away. 10 of my most brutal brawlers to haul the heavy barrels and look menacing and blood-fawn. Truthfully, I really didn't want to drag along that giant one-eyed wolf, but the overgrown beast clamped his jaws onto my pants leg and gave me the most pitifully threatening, single-eyed glare I've ever witnessed. The message was basically bring me or watch everything you love burn. So there I was, marching with a wolf, the size of a compact SUV, as my travel buddy. Awesome. 3 grueling days of trekking later, we reached Fong Tooth Market. Though calling it a market is a massive stretch. Picture a garbage dump, a chaotic zoo, and a massive bar brawl, all tossed into a valley together with a sign reading, "Welcome to Free Enterprise." The sheer stench alone could knock out a warhorse. Barnyard manure, cheap hooch, scorched mystery meat, and roughly 40 distinct species of body odor, all throwing hands for the worst smell championship. Honestly, it was art, in most cursed way possible, leaving the heavy guards outside to watch over our precious liquid asset. Lena and I strolled in to scope the joint. Simple plan. Easy day, what could possibly go wrong? Right. We hadn't even cleared the main gate before I heard the most entitled, insufferable shriek I've ever suffered through in 2 lifetimes. Are you completely blind? How dare you try scamming me with this rusty piece of trash? This junk isn't even worth my mangiest pelt. Drop to your knees and beg for forgiveness right now before I totally trash your booth. Glancing sideways, my gaze instantly locked onto a legit tiger woman. Now look, let me be real, I am a pragmatic, by-the-book military guy. Threat assessment comes first for me, so let's break down specs. She stood shoulder to shoulder with me in height, built like an absolute goddess who never once skipped leg day, possessing endless legs that stretched on for miles. Fuzzy tiger ears sprouted from a crown of platinum blonde braids, adorned intricately with tiny carved bones and vibrant colorful stones. Piercing amber eyes featured dangerous vertical slit pupils alongside a tail, thick as my own arm, thrashing back and forth like an enraged metronome. Low-key, she was stunning. Yet she was also completely out of her mind, apparently named Sarah. Having grabbed a rusted blade from Terrified Pigman vendor, she snapped it barehanded, just like a cheap breadstick, ready to wreck his entire kiosk. Into next week. The poor pigman looked like he was about to burst into tears. What, his pants, or maybe both at the exact same time? Frankly, none of this drama was my concern. Not my circus, not my pigman, except for one annoying detail. She happened to block the entry point, specifically my pathway. The exact threshold I needed to cross to peddle my booze and save my people. So as her foot launched toward that vendor stand, I smoothly stepped in and gave her ankle a subtle little nudge. Pure physics and basic leverage. Unsurprisingly, she completely missed. Needless to say, she wasn't thrilled. Where the hell did you crawl out from, you half-breed mutt? How dare you interfere with me? Ah, casual racism, my favorite icebreaker. My favorite greeting. Lena stepped right up beside me, hand resting close to her blade, studying Sarah like a prowling cat, eyeing a particularly obnoxious mouse. Two feline predators sizing one another up, honestly kind of vibe. Noticing Lena only seemed to trigger Sarah even further. What? You brought a leopard chick as your bodyguard. Move, or else I'll trash both of you. Both of you. A soothing pat on Lena's shoulder kept her grounded, before I turned my attention back to Princess Tiger Tantrum, and dropped the most dangerous sentence imaginable. You're blocking the road, so if you're looking for a brawl, take it somewhere else. You would have thought I insulted her entire ancestry, dating back a full 12 generations. A kaleidoscope of about 7 different shades of pure fury crossed her face. What really pushed her over the edge was probably the deadpan look I gave her, akin to watching a toddler throwing a full-blown tantrum inside a grocery store aisle, which, to be completely fair, was an accurate summary of this whole mess. Just with claws included. Die, she shrieked, lashing out with a vicious swipe, swinging her claws so intensely that the air literally started whistling. She came right at my face. Let me break down the deal with flashy claw moves. They look super dramatic, but honestly, they're mad predictable. Mid-swing, I grabbed her wrist, shifted the momentum, and boom, she lost her balance, stumbling forward like someone missing a step on a staircase. It is just a classic military grappling move, equally effective on wasted soldiers and furious tiger princesses. For about half a second, she was totally shook, before screaming for backup. Get him! Take this arrogant loser down right now. Whipping out their battle axes from both flanks, 2 massive Tiger Clan warriors rushed me. Oh, now it was a party, dashing straight into the left guy's personal bubble. Before he could even lift his weapon, I thrust my spiked club upward to shatter his wrist grip, with a sickening crack that made everyone within 10 feet wince. His axe went flying as he shrieked, dropping one hand instantly. And hey, no cap, I'm just telling you what actually went down. I whipped my back leg around to kick the other guy's knee, dead from the side. A loud crunch echoed out as he folded right up like a cheap lawn chair. 2 elite Tiger Clan guards? Total time elapsed was barely 3 seconds, both sprawled in the dust, making sounds that would genuinely haunt any vet. Sarah's expression morphed from pure rage to shock. So fast I'm genuinely amazed she didn't get whiplash. Giving her 0 time to recover or process, I spun around and swept my foot low to displace her, not to maim, just to throw her off. Predictably, she hopped backward exactly as I anticipated, and I patiently waited for that exact microsecond, when she was hanging airborne with 0 energy left, to snatch her by the ankle. Her skin felt shockingly smooth. Okay, that has 0 tactical relevance to this fight, but I'm keeping it 100 with you guys. With a mighty heave, I yanked her hard through the air, sending her spinning like a gorgeous, screaming, ultra-angry ragdoll right into the dirt. Before she could even manage a gasp, I dropped my knee straight on her back, pinning her arms tight behind her, and bound her up with beast sinew rope. Quicker than you can say the words international diplomatic crisis. Let me go right now. Do you have any idea who I am? My dad is Chief Bragg of the Skull Crusher clan, and he is going to utterly destroy you and flatten your entire tribe into dust. Checking that my knots were secure and snug, I stood back up and dusted off my hands. Downward, I cast my gaze upon that furious, squirming mess. A completely livid tiger princess tied up right there in the dirt. With a shrug, Skull Crusher clan Chief Bragg's daughter was mine. Never heard of him anyway, but you're my prisoner now, seriously. What your daddy's willing to pay determines your actual value. Or maybe you yourself do. I thought as I gave her a quick once-over, purely as a casual assessment of her ransom price, obviously. And boom, she turned redder than a ripe tomato, shivering intensely with sheer, unadulterated rage. Every single existing curse word spilled out her mouth, while she was probably inventing brand new ones on the spot. Dead silence instantly fell across the entire bustling market. Every single set of eyes stared at me like I just flexed on a dragon and won. Strolling forward, Lena approached with a mildly concerned vibe. A major Western tribe happens to be the Skull Crusher clan. Chief Bragg is widely known for possessing insane power, along with a famously short temper. Troublesome? This could honestly turn into a huge mess, I laughed, scooping up the tiger princess who was still thrashing around wildly. I hoisted her directly over my shoulder, just like a sack filled with furious potatoes, and began my march right back toward the camp. Her flailing tail kept smacking me right in the face. Honestly, I think this is a total W. Let's move out because this market trip is officially over for today. Spotting me returning with a squirming, screaming woman, Blood Fawn, got so hyped up and instantly thrilled. His single golden eye literally sparkled at the sight of a new toy. A fresh friend and a new chew thing were clearly on the wolf's mind. Tossing Sarah carelessly into a dark tent, I moved fast, posted a couple of guards outside, and gave them some basic directions. Keep her watched, prevent any escape, but do not inflict any harm. She is literally our golden ticket to making nice with the Skull Crushers. Making nice with them, I muttered aloud, using the most sarcastic air quotes in human history. From deep within the canvas tent came a fresh wave of screaming and threats, backed by vivid promises of a painful, bloody death for me and anyone I'd ever crossed paths with. Brushing it all off, I stared at my remaining barrels of booze, glanced back toward the market, and then looked right at the tent. Liquor was the only thing I came here to sling. Instead, I ended up catching a tiger princess, so plans change. Pack it all up because we are ghosting tonight. Here is the absolute reality of clocking someone's kid. The dad is bound to roll up and look for payback eventually, and I'd rather not stick around to greet Chief Bragg and his notorious short fuse when he comes hunting, vanishing straight into the darkening tree line with our alcohol stash, along with our exceptionally unhappy new passenger, bound up tightly inside that dark tent. Sarah was cooking up a seriously brutal revenge plot while simultaneously fighting a very confusing vibe she refused to accept, completely low-key crushing on the dude who had just tossed her around like she weighed nothing at all. Hey, what can I say? I've just got that killer charm. Back at the Blackstone Tribe headquarters, I dragged the tiger princess in, and trust me, the welcoming committee was absolute pure chaos. Every single villager was staring at her like she was some exotic exhibit at the local zoo. Little kids were actually chucking tiny rocks right at her cage. Yes, pebbles thrown at a terrifying tiger lady. Clearly, these kids possessed literally zero survival instincts. Whenever Sarah unleashed this deep, rumbling growl from her chest, paired with a death glare so ice-cold it could freeze molten lava solid, those brave little kids would scatter instantly, screaming bloody murder as if their tails had just caught fire. Not gonna lie, it was peak entertainment. Still, babysitting the tiger princess was totally low on my priority list. Gerald and his vengeful crew could literally crash our party any second now, and our tribe's entire combat force basically consisted of a random bunch of guys who had just figured out which end of a wooden stick to hold last month. It was high time to upgrade this camp into a heavily fortified stronghold, or at least construct something that wouldn't collapse if someone so much as sneezed near it. Dropping into full paranoid military engineer mode, I barked out orders. Chop down and clear away every single bush and shrub along the southern and eastern perimeters. I need a minimum of 50 paces of wide open ground. The area has got to be so desolate and barren that even a field mouse would feel totally exposed trying to scurry across it. The tactical concept here is honestly pretty straightforward. Wolf cavalry units thrive on stealth and love creeping through thick foliage. Take away all the cover, and stealth becomes completely impossible, leaving just a massive, terrifying open killing field, where we can spot them coming a mile away while they're left to rethink all their poor life choices. Next, I'll motion Lena over. You've clearly got the sharpest eyes in the entire camp. Grab a crew of our most agile fighters, and turn those dense forest edges into an absolute psychological nightmare. Using a pointed stick, I hastily scratched out complex trap blueprints right into the dusty dirt. Deep camo pits lined with razor-sharp wooden stakes at the base, spring-loaded tripwires, hooked up to bent-back saplings designed to either jerk an intruder upside down into the canopy or fire flying wooden spikes. Plus pressure plate spike boards hidden under leaf litter. Classic, old-school booby traps, the kind of simple, highly effective setups that leave uninvited guests having an exceptionally miserable day. Just make sure you carve tiny, hidden markers only our people can recognize. I added because the very last thing on earth we need is our own guys accidentally stumbling into our own lethal surprises. Lena's amber eyes flashed. Her whole expression lit up like I'd just handed her a birthday gift. Making people suffer is basically this chick's favorite hobby. With her squad right behind her, she slipped into the dark woods. And I swear a low-key smile touched her lips almost. Considering it's Lena that's basically doing cartwheels of pure joy. Moving on to the perimeter, our old wooden fence was absolute trash. Even a motivated chicken could have busted straight through it. Thick, heavy logs were driven deep down into the dirt, stacking them high and locking them tight. Those old watchtowers got a major glow-up, getting roofed over and manned 24/7 while the main entrance was totally redesigned into a zigzagging corridor, lined with solid stone platforms on both sides. Any fool rushing in blindly would get hammered from every single angle. It is literally the oldest trick in the Fortress survival playbook. And it honestly slaps because ruthless geometry. Couldn't care less how tough you think you are. I had more of the shaman rally the women to boil. Massive cauldrons of water and stockpile. Heavy rocks and logs behind the walls at all the key choke points. The complete medieval home defense package was officially ready. Our training shifted from just tough to, I am genuinely convinced this violates some international Geneva Convention type of wall defense drills. Shield walls locking down the narrow corridors, and synchronized rock-throwing rotations executed right on command, over and over and over again, until these guys could pull it off completely in their sleep, which honestly some of them actually tried. I shut that down fast while the whole tribe was absolutely buzzing, with the sound of hammering, chopping, shouting, and nonstop training. Everyone knew this was a definitive survive-or-die moment. Even the grandmas were out there hauling heavy boulders. And right through the middle of all this chaos, Princess Tantrum just sat inside her wooden cage watching everything. She started out wearing this smug, little arrogant smirk, like she was some god-watching ants. Build a fragile sandcastle before the high tide rolls in. How utterly adorable her face screamed, thinking they can actually fight. But then a distinct vibe shift happened right before my eyes. Her attitude slowly melted from total cockiness into pure confusion, and finally morphed into something that looked way too much. Like deep, grudging respect, she couldn't figure out the exact traps, but she could definitely feel they were lethal. She could clearly see that my warriors were still physically weak on an individual level, yet they were moving together as one tightly coordinated and disciplined unit, executing orders without a single second of hesitation. Not a single soul had ever witnessed orcs pull off something like that, because orcs don't do that kind of tactical stuff. They'd rather just rush in, yell their lungs out, and pray for the best. Meanwhile, my crew, my guys were actually evolving into a legit force. Sure, a small, scrappy, and somewhat pathetic force, but still a force. Equipped with an actual brain, as I caught her staring right at me during drill, absent-mindedly biting her lip. And for the very first time, pure rage wasn't the only thing in her eyes. A flicker of genuine curiosity was there, asking who the hell I even was. Naturally, though, being curious didn't make her any less of a massive pain in my neck. While strolling past her cage to inspect the wall reinforcements, she totally seized her golden moment. Oh, busy, busy, busy. You actually think this toy fort is going to stop the elite skull crusher warriors? Huh. One single charge, and this entire dump turns into toothpicks. Used a bunch of hairless apes playing with sticks. Stopping dead in my tracks, I turned back and gave her a calm look. We'll see. At least we're out here hustling and doing something, which is way more than a certain princess can say, who ended up flat on her face in the dirt showing off her belly. Direct hit, as she slammed violently against the cage bars with her fingers, clawing desperately at the wood until I thought she'd rip shreds of it out with her bare nails. You filthy half-breed. Let me out of here right now, or I'll tear your face right off your skull. We'll fight again. Right this second, I stepped directly up to the cage, standing face to face with her through the iron bars, close enough to watch those amber eyes burning fiercely like twin blazing suns. Your little intimidation tactics are cute, but they do zero on me since you're my captive. Your whole purpose is keeping your daddy from going scorched earth. So sit tight and behave, or things are going to get real ugly for you. My father would never lower himself to negotiate with garbage like you. He's going to slaughter every single one of you and rescue me instead. You better unlock this door right now. Maybe then I'll ask him to leave your corpse somewhat intact. I genuinely burst out laughing, a loud, honest laugh I couldn't hold back. Oh wow, what an absolute genius idea. When he finally rolls up, I'll tie you securely to the front gate post. and then we'll find out whether his heavy club smashes my fence first, or crashes right into his precious little daughter first. All the color vanished from her face, so instantly that I honestly thought she might pass out, before a blazing crimson flush rushed right back twice as intense, and twice as furious. "You wouldn't dare do that, you disgusting, filthy hyena, chow piece of," thrusting her arm forcefully through the bars. She took a vicious swipe at my face, claws fully extended and lunging with absolute intent, while I leaned back a clean 3 inches. To watch her swipe completely miss the mark. This is honestly where I pulled a low-key SUS leadership move, NGL. Though in my defense, she seriously needed to learn some boundaries. Plus my patience was totally cooked, and I had literally 0 polite options left. Before she could even yank her arm back, I caught her wrist, jerked her forward hard, and watched her upper body slam straight into the iron bars. Before she could even process what the heck was going down, though, I brought my free hand right back in a solid, echoing, and deeply satisfying smack directly across her backside. That loud crack bounced across the campsite like actual thunder. Time totally froze as Sarah went completely brain dead. Error 404. Honestly, the slap itself wasn't even that heavy or painful. It was purely about the principle, and the sheer, unbelievable audacity of the whole thing. She, a literal tiger princess, had just gotten spanked by a half-breed, right through the cage bars in front of everybody. The nearby tribe members looked shook, like their eyeballs were about to pop out of their heads. And then came the absolute roar. Across 2 lifetimes, I've heard some genuinely terrifying noises, like crazy explosions, heavy gunfire, and wild monsters. Plus a sergeant who lost his mind over a stolen coffee mug. Yet nothing came close to the screech tearing out of Sarah's throat. Right then, filled with pure, unfiltered, weapons-grade humiliation and absolute rage. If you could convert all that anger into pure electricity, she could have powered up a whole small town. "I will kill you, you little. I am 100% going to murder you." She went totally wild, clawing and thrashing around, like crazy. Body slamming the cage so hard the wooden frame groaned. I actually noticed her eyes getting super glossy, not from any pain, but from a deep, nuclear-level embarrassment. Her face was flushed so bright red. It looked like she dunked her head in a bucket of paint. Taking a chill step back, I casually brushed off my hand like I was inspecting a new piece of furniture, and dropped what has got to be the absolute best one-liner of my career. "Not gonna lie, nice feel, princess. Too bad about the attitude, though, so are you gonna chill out now? Or does the other side want to turn?" Honestly, that poor cage barely survived. What went down over the next 30 seconds? It was wild. Facing the shell-shocked tribesmen lingering nearby, I ordered them to feed her and bring some water right away, making sure she wouldn't starve. Find a thick animal hide to securely wrap around that cage, because she's totally doing too much. Sauntering off to inspect my fresh new fortifications, I casually whistled to myself while behind my back, the absolute most terrifying woman I had ever crossed paths with screamed deadly threats that somehow got more creative every single minute. Honestly, I'm low-key convinced she invented at least 4 brand new curse words across 2 different languages. Later that same night, once the heavy hide was safely blanketed over the cage, and her frantic screaming had finally chilled out into occasional, furious muttering, I took a moment to process the whole situation. They say you shouldn't poke a sleeping tiger, but let's be real. I totally poked it. Straight up slapped it, actually, and somehow I'm still standing here. And somewhere inside that dark, hide-covered enclosure, Sarah was rubbing the exact spot where my hand had landed, her face burning and heart pounding wildly, cursing my name with every single breath she took, while her brain replayed the memory over and over, on an endless loop that she absolutely, definitely 100% did not want to think about. Except she was totally thinking about it. I could just tell, because I'm super observant like that. By training day at the Blackstone tribe, my warriors were lined up in formation, looking almost like actual disciplined soldiers. Keyword being almost. Their gear was still consisting of janky iron sticks, but at least they had a decent edge to them. Janky iron sticks definitely count as progress. Everyone was on edge, bracing for the Skullcrusher clan to show up asking questions about their missing princess. Plot twist, a totally different enemy decided to pull up. Bloodfang started acting super weird first, pawing the dirt nervously and growling toward the west. That giant wolf's danger radar. is way more reliable than any high-tech satellite system I used. Back on Earth. When your massive, one-eyed murder wolf starts getting restless, you better pay attention. Right on cue came a massive dust cloud rolling in from the west, accompanied by howling. Oh man, the howling. Over 50 wolf riders came barreling across the plains, shouting as if death metal had just been invented, and they were the opening act. Western wolf cavalry inbound, enemy assault, cracking so wildly, the watchtower lookout's voice hit 3 octaves flat out in a single breath, hitting 3 distinct notes in just one sentence. His voice totally cracked up. Banging loudly, the emergency gong started echoing across the camp. Far from being the Skull Crushers, it turned out to be a completely different threat. It was none other than the Garl Bloodskar clan crashing the party. He was the exact guy whose secret treasure vault I'd totally cleaned out, pulling off a total fantasy world version of Ocean's 11 right under his nose. Noting the heist, he definitely was not planning to send me a polite text. A strongly worded complaint letter was definitely not what he had in mind for me. Right at the front lines stood the man himself, Garl Bloodclaw in all his terrifying glory, perched atop a vicious wolf built like a compact city bus, smeared with aggressive war paint across his rugged face, brandishing a massive double-bladed battle axe like a total tryhard, a weapon that was honestly compensating for some serious personal issues. Mongrel, you looted my vault and slaughtered my loyal warriors. Today I'm going to completely flatten your pathetic little tribe into dust. Turning your skull into a fancy drinking mug is my top priority. Feeding your women to my ravenous wolves sounds like a solid bonus plan. What a lovely guy. I bet he's an absolute riot at social gatherings. Perched up high on my tiny stone platform, I watched the scene unfold, gazing out at his 50-plus elite wolf riders charging straight toward our position. I decided to do what any sane, rational survivalist would do in that mess. I immediately started roasting him right back with maximum disrespect. That vault raid of mine was merely me collecting some overdue interest. Garl, your thick skull is sitting right at the very top of my hit list. You call those elite riders? They look like a bunch of mangy stray dogs. Bring it on then, coward. My floor happens to need some brand new wolfskin rugs anyway. Look, hear me out. Pure psychological warfare is a completely legit military strategy in any book. I actually picked that clever trick up from wait. Never mind where I managed to pick that little gem up. The main point is that it's super tactical. Throw those javelins now. My guys hurled every single weapon they had in stock at them. Most of those shots fell way short or just bounced harmlessly off enemy shields. It felt like we were literally pelting them with foam pool noodles. A few lucky ones connected, but those wolf riders are absolute tanks. We barely managed to scratch their pristine paint job. Then they slammed right into our main wall. You know the vibe. Picture that crisp crunch sound when you step on an oversized saltine cracker. Imagine that exact sound effect, but amplified 100 times louder. Except replace the snack with your entire defensive perimeter breaking apart. The wooden fence I spent grueling days reinforcing shattered instantly. It exploded into splinters like it was built out of cheap toothpicks. Howling wolves and aggressive riders poured straight through the massive breach, flowing in like raging floodwater rushing through a blown-out dam. Fight for the tribe. Slay them all. Roaring fiercely, Bart charged headfirst in a battle alongside the warriors, literally using their own bodies to patch up the breach. Things were completely out of hand, seriously rough. On a one-on-one basis, these wolf riders were way tougher than my squad. Warriors were getting ripped to shreds within seconds, throats torn out by vicious beasts, chests cracked open by heavy axes. Blood was everywhere, turning the dirt into red sludge. 3-man squads, sweep low and slice those bellies. Poke out eyes, I yelled till my voice was completely shredded, pushing them to recall their training. Right through all the panic, and props to my boys. They actually listened, sort of. Forming up, they went straight for the wolves, targeting soft underbellies and jabbing at the riders' exposed legs. Messy, yeah. Total desperation, absolutely. Yet they held the line, barely keeping it together like a dam made of duct tape. Still, they held until Geralt played his ace card. Because of course he had some hidden tricks up his sleeve. A pair of sketchy shamans in the back started dancing, shaking bone staffs while chanting wildly, like they were lost in the worst rave ever. A crimson pulse blasted outward, washing over every single wolf rider. A full-on rage aura. Every single foe suddenly got supercharged. Faster, way more pissed off. Their eyes flashed a vicious blood red. Their strikes hit harder and my guys started dropping even quicker. But hold on, there's more. The second shaman dropped another buff. Yellow this time, a tough guy aura, instantly hardening their hide. My warriors' weapons were just bouncing right off them, leaving nothing more than faint scratches. Feeling like trying to hack through a thick steak with a spoon. A double buff, and my guys were locked in combat against absolute monster juggernauts. Speed-boosted killing machines. The front line began to crumble. Panic crept back in as Bark took an axe slash. Right to the arm, deep enough to expose Whitebone. He kept on fighting, but honestly, how long could he pull that off? It was high time I quit shouting orders from back and jumped straight into the fray myself, even old Mora, still half battered from her previous heavy spell work, started chanting a bloodlust spell. Her crimson glow caught maybe a dozen of my frontline fighters. Handy, but nowhere near enough. Not even close, which meant I had to make my move. I reached down deep into that massive ocean of spiritual energy inside my chest, pulling straight from the Kong bloodline power, and slammed it right into Mora's spell, basically tossing rocket fuel onto a campfire with my name on it, triggering a total blood rage explosion boom as a tidal wave of crimson power burst out of me to wash over every single black stone warrior across the battlefield. Their eyes went wild while their muscles bulged, and fear, oh, what absolute fear, shifted instantly from please don't kill me to I'm gonna bite your face off in half a second. Sure, they still weren't as strong as the enemy's double aura. It was close enough to scrap, close enough to really pack a punch. Yet this is right where I decided to play super dirty. Because while Bloodlust makes my guys hit much harder, it totally doesn't keep them from biting the dust. So I threw in my own secret weapon, precision healing. Every time one of my fighters took a brutal hit, I zapped them immediately with a surge of green healing energy, closing gaping wounds and snapping broken bones straight back into place. Right when someone was about to get decapitated, a sudden energy boost. Let them dodge by a hair. Honestly, I was playing a real-time strategy game, featuring an overpowered heal bot, casting rage buffs with one hand, while spamming heals on anyone dropping below 50% health with the other. It was peak ridiculous cheating, the most shameless combat style you could ever imagine. And it totally worked as troops shouted, "Lord Stanson saved us. The spirits protect us. Follow Lord Stanson. Kill them all." As my warriors went completely berserk, they stopped worrying about getting hurt at all, seeing that every single time they dropped, green light pulled them right back up. Their morale skyrocketed from, "We're totally doomed," to "We are basically immortal, and our commander is a literal god." Not technically true, yet the vibe was entirely there. And in the middle of combat, feeling invincible is 90% of actually being invincible. Carl watched all of this unfold with his jaw hitting the floor, screaming, "What are those shamans doing? Stop him and take out that mongrel." He was completely losing his mind, and as his shamans tried to target me, bad move, because Lena materialized out of thin air. I swear that woman is made of pure shadow, and went straight for their throats, surging forward like a sleek, leopard-shaped missile. The pair of shamans suddenly found themselves facing bigger headaches than mere chanting. Garl was personally blindsided by a ferocious charge from Bloodfawn. It was my giant wolf matched against his giant beast, with an extra dose of a furious, one-eyed predator thrown into the mix. Hot sulfur fumes were blowing straight into the poor guy's face. Instead of leading his troops from afar, Garl was forced into a frantic struggle for sheer survival. With absolutely nobody bothering me for a second, I tapped into my inner support class lunatic, casting rapid-fire heals with my left hand, while pumping out rage boosts with the right. My eyes swept across the chaotic battlefield, operating with the ruthless precision of a military satellite. Combat calculations were spinning through my brain, at a speed I never even dreamed of back in my previous life. Finally, I decided it was high time to hang up the medic hat and jump straight into full DPS mode. "Garlock, your time is up," I yelled, leaping off the raised platform. The hardened earth trembled and fractured beneath my boots upon impact. I'm honestly not exaggerating, my heavy metal boots literally left deep craters. My fingers gripped my trusty spiked club tightly, before I plunged right into the thickest cluster of wolf-riding chaos. What unfolded next was, frankly, a total mess. It was brutally violent, yet oddly mesmerizing. Wham! One unfortunate rider and his wolf took a hit so devastatingly heavy that they went flying sideways into a trio of other enemies. acting just like a heavy bowling ball crashing into bowling pins. Shattered bones echoed through the air with a crisp crunch resembling popcorn. Another warrior desperately raised his axe to block the incoming doom. Unfortunately, that weapon crumpled like cheap tinfoil, and his arm bent sharply in angles human limbs were never meant to bend. Did they manage to strike back at me? Oh, absolutely. Enemy axes battered my chest armor repeatedly, sending bright sparks flying and leaving deep, ugly dents. A few lucky attacks actually broke through my defense, leaving painful, bleeding cuts across my arms and ribs. And you know what I did? I casually slapped a heavy healing spell on myself, right in the middle of a swing as the deep gashes instantly closed up. Time to keep crushing it. By this point, I had turned into a walking, self-repairing wrecking ball of destruction. There was simply no way they could put me down, because my healing magic outpaced their slashing blades. Stopping me was totally out of the question, since every blow I absorbed only fueled my rage to sky-high levels, while every counterattack I delivered sent another poor soul straight to meet their ancestors. Watching their chief tear through the enemy lines like a madman, my warriors completely lost their minds, overflowing with battle frenzy as they slaughtered opponents like absolute demons. The whole vibe completely flipped upside down. We were the apex predators now. While over inside her wooden cage, Princess Sarah watched the absolute chaos unfold. Her expression was totally hidden from me, since turning wolf riders into abstract art kept me busy. Though word reached me that she went dead silent, with zero insults left to throw, and all screaming ceased, leaving only those massive amber eyes locked right onto me, as if she were staring at a glitch she couldn't compute, apparently witnessing a guy you totally despise juggle healing spells alongside skull-crushing brutality, while single-handedly flipping a losing war around. Does some wild things to a tiger. Princess's brain, who would have guessed? The girl finally broke down and called retreat. Pulling back sounded like sweet music to my ears, yet was a total hard no. You want to run? Now? Talk to the hand, bark. Don't let a single survivor slip away. Bark am I. Adrenaline. Pumping warriors swarmed the fleeing riders instantly, clamping down like pit bulls on a chew toy. Escape was no longer an option for anyone. Even more juice got channeled straight into my bloodlust spell. Blood rage hit a full boiling point, shifting my fighters from deeply pissed to totally feral. Full berserker mode engaged as they traded blow for devastating blow, ignoring every injury completely, just biting, clawing, and tearing, to trap the enemy and cut off their exit, while I kept patching them up through the carnage. Infinite agression plus endless et ligne spell équal à Trudy. Atrocious day for the wolf riders. Garrick himself became my next target. The guy was scrambling to coordinate the retreat, shouting orders while still trading blows with Bloodfawn. With one swift motion, I rocketed toward him like a cannonball. Girl, I'm coming to take your head. Every ounce of strength I possessed went into swinging the spike club. Every drop of raw rage, every shred of power, every bit of energy that threatened my people got funneled right into the strike. He saw it coming too late. His eyes blew wide open with a desperate shriek, and he threw up his massive double axe to brace for impact. Our weapons collided with a deafening clang. The shockwave echoed so loudly, it froze the entire battlefield still for a brief second, silencing every single person, wolf, and creature. Everyone froze up on us, dead silent, as metal started to shriek. A sharp crack echoed out. That was literally when the tea got piping hot, right after the massive throwdown. Morning sunlight broke over the Blackstone tribe. Not gonna lie, the headquarters was giving major glow-up vibes. Real structures stood tall in an organized layout. Fresh dirt filled the air. It totally replaced that old vibe of absolute despair and sadness. Total progress, though the absolute main event was sitting on the training field. 50 wolf riders sat right there in the dirt. They were all tied up like little holiday presents. All 50 of them made up the entire surviving squad of Garl's Bloodscar clan. They looked like the most tragic group photo ever taken, all dirty, completely battered, totally confused, and low-key shaking in their boots. Their wolves had been locked up separately, getting a good scrub down by 20 of my guys, who held very pointy sticks with extremely nervous expressions, and then walked out Bloodfawn, strolling around the wolf pen right now, like a main character walking down a runway at Fashion Week. He casually paced past everyone, one golden eye gleaming brightly, literally dripping with top dog energy. Every single captured wolf took one look right at him and immediately tucked their tails right between their legs. Whimpering and totally submitting, Bloodfang didn't even have to lift a single paw. His heavily evolved bloodline aura practically screamed out, "I'm your boss now, and you know it," all translated in pure wolf language. I stepped right up in front of the prisoners, and to stare them down without uttering a single word. I locked eyes with each of them slowly, one by one. This is a classic trick I picked up in my past life. Pure silence hits way harder than shouting. I just let them marinate in their own anxiety, letting their wild imaginations do all the heavy lifting. By the exact moment I finally opened my mouth, half of them looked like they were about to straight up pass out. Garrick is dead, period. You could genuinely hear a pin drop in the quiet. Every single wolf rider's head snapped straight up, as if I'd physically slapped them across the face. Oh yeah, you heard right. Your big scary boss is gone for good. Your home base is totally leveled, and your entire clan is completely finished. It's game over. Please insert a coin to continue because the Bloodscar main camp has been crushed. I kept talking, sounding as casual as someone ordering a morning coffee. Anyone who dared to resist simply followed their chief straight down to the afterlife. So here is your ultimate choice. Bend the knee or join them. Total ghost town quiet, save for ragged gasps echoing around. Anxiety and cold sweat hang thick in the damp air. Fun fact, panic sweat actually smells way grosser than the regular kind. Exponentially worse, which is my cue to drop the pep talk. Look, I'm not about to front, like some certified life coach. Yet when you have got 50 shaking grunts, huddled right by your boots, and you urgently need a roster flip ASAP, you pick up real quick on how to craft a pitch. You guys reckon your worth is just raiding and pillaging. That was Garl's whole gospel, right? Smash the weak, boost their loot. Feel like a boss for 5 seconds, which is seriously low-key lame. That does not make you tough, just a grade A bully, and literally everybody has zero respect for bullies. Oof, I could totally tell that hit home. A couple of them flinched. Still, that was my cue to crank the inspiration meter all the way up. You fight for something that actually matters. Shielding your homestead, building a real legacy. Making sure families stay fed and kids grow up secure. And you, yes you, elevate yourselves into the sickest wolf cavalry this entire continent has ever seen. No more common bandits or scrub thugs. We are talking living legends. I pointed at their beasts, then at Bloodfang. Your wolves deserve way better than being glorified tools for cheap smash and grabs. Roll with me, and they score top-tier chow, elite drills, and premium gear. You'll all get the best meals, training, and armor too, while I forge you into a combat powerhouse, capable of making whole kingdoms tremble. Calculated pause, locking intense eye contact with every single face. Make your call, a fresh start alongside me, or a quick dirt nap with your old crew. Dead quiet, then even more agonizing quiet, until a mid-tier officer type, answering to Iron Claw, hauled himself up, slamming his bound fist hard against his chest plate. Sup, Iron Claw? Swearing total allegiance to Lord Stanson. A domino effect kicked off, which was honestly a vibe to witness. The second guy joined, then the third, then the fifth. They literally started tripping over one another, just to pledge loyalty in a massive hype avalanche. Barely 2 minutes passed before all 50 were thumping their chests. And bowing low, I strode right up to Iron Claw, slicing through his ropes with my own hands, giving him a friendly pat right on the shoulder. You're officially my new wolf cavalry captain now. Strict compliance with 3 absolute rules is required. Unwavering loyalty and never bullying the weak. Violate any of these and you're toast. Yes, Lord Stanson understood. The guy looked like I had just popped the big question. He was low-key glowing with pure joy and boom. 50 seasoned wolf riders, equipped with 50 battle-ready wolves, rolled into my tribe. My military muscle went from a total underdog to, actually kind of terrifying overnight. Not bad for a random Tuesday. Yet the universe clearly wasn't done dropping gifts on me. Oh no, Mora shuffled up close behind me carrying something. Something super bizarre. Lurking right behind her was a creature that looked like a blend of a tree trunk, a patch of shadow, and a toadstool, all tossed into a blender, set to max creepiness, standing about as tall as an orc. It was built from dark wood, twisted roots, and patchy moss. Its face was basically swirling shadow, drifting darkness featuring 2 eerie green lights glowing inside, shining like ghostly fireflies instead of regular eyes. Instead of legs, it had a tangle of root tentacles, allowing it to slide across the floor completely silently. Picture a haunted forest coming to life as a person. That's exactly what this entity resembled. Meet Mr. Shadow Whisker, if you will, Mora announced, while clearly trying her hardest not to panic. He happens to be a tree demon shadow priest. He totally sensed your incredible power yesterday, along with that ancient tree essence pulsing inside you. And now he desperately wants a word with you. A tree demon shadow priest? Seriously? Sure, why not add that to the list? My everyday life is completely normal anyway. Shadow Whisker didn't speak using any mouth. Mostly because he didn't even have a physical mouth. His voice beamed straight into my consciousness instead. Low and raspy, sounding like wind rushing through hollow logs. Bearer of a powerful bloodline, I sense a wild disturbance vast as a star-filled ocean, yet grounded and calm like ancient timber. The mystical forces intertwined within your core are fascinating. You have forged a connection with the old Forest Guardians. This creepy guy could actually detect my Kong bloodline, the ancient tree essence residing in me, and my hidden magical reserves all at once, which is equal parts impressive and totally unnerving. Loki like finding out your neighbor's packing thermal vision. Something along those lines. Carefully sending a mental ping, I replied back. What brings you to my neck of the woods, Mr. Shadow Whisker? Pure observation paired with potential collaboration. My species communes seamlessly with flora, channels shadow force, and holds ancient secrets of harmonics. Plus alchemy. Your tribe thrives on raw vitality mixed with chaotic order. Maybe my wisdom could give you an edge and tame that wild power inside you, which is begging for some serious guidance. Talking plants, shadow magic, and straight-up alchemy. Ancient cheat codes downloading right into my brain. Absolute. Interior sirens blaring while digital confetti rains outside. Outwardly, I just kept a chill, dignified nod on lock. The Blackstone tribe rolls out the red carpet for all friends and wise travelers. Should you decide to crash here, top-tier shelter and a lab space are totally on me. I've actually got some burning questions about energy grids and crafting that could seriously benefit from your skill set. Acceptable, provided I get a pad nestled near ancient trees. Shaded, quiet deal. Mora, get that setup stat. Right under the massive iron hemlocks on the camp border. Whatever he needs, Tree Wizard has officially joined the roster. Sliding right into the most hype part of the day. Out popped the goblin blueprints straight from my storage ring. Focusing in on the two absolute MVPs. The schematic dubbed Iron Stick. Fire-spitting, magic crystal-fueled, and totally unstable. Basically a bootleg firearm blueprint. Alongside the blueprint for a hefty, round yellow bomb. Doing exactly what it says on the tin. Copper Beard, get your butt over here. Raising my voice, I watched the dwarf sprint over, clutching a fizzing mug of our experimental moonshine. His nose already glowing crimson from quality control. Let's go, my guy. Sip this new batch. It'll totally rock your world. By the way, who's the creepy tree dude? Just a new neighbor. Keep your eyes on the prize. Peep these out as I scatter the blueprints across a flat boulder. Copperbeard took one glance, and his pupils dilated so hard. I thought they were launching right out of his head. That already rosy nose of his went completely tomato mode. Is this actually leveraging magic crystal? Energy surges to propel metal chunks, locking down raw energy. Inside a sealed chamber for a split-second pop, low-key brilliant. Absolute big brain energy, no cap. Yet totally cooked at the same time. This trigger setup is practically a literal death trap. While this power circuit is giving pure, chaotic energy on an iced-out ledge. Still, the core concept is straight-up art. Classic dwarf behavior right there. They will trash-talk a design as the most cursed junk ever built, while simultaneously simping for it hard. Brows furrowing deeply, Mora analyzed the glowing energy pathways. Magic crystals are totally unhinged and wild, meaning that keeping strict control over how that juice gets funneled out demands super precise channeling runes. Meanwhile, this goblin scratch would literally blow right up in your face. Shadow whiskers. En route, tentacles twitched thoughtfully in the dim light. A vibe of thoughtful insight echoed through his mental voice. Harnessing raw, elemental fury. With mere mortal hands is wild, though shadow energy can chill out power spikes. Certain magic-infused fungi and dense woods could swap out metal parts to seriously buff magical channeling. Plus, ancient natural rune systems preserve old-school energy-focusing secrets that might totally work here with 3 distinct experts, bringing 3 completely different takes, yet landing on the exact same vibe. The goblin blueprints were totally deranged and lethal, yet the underlying vision was legendary. This is honestly where I flex my worth. Armed with a secret weapon, none of them possess knowledge. From a realm where firearms and explosives are everyday tech. Translating those concepts into fantasy world terminology was all it took. Leaning in, I proposed slowly. What if we forge the barrel core of this iron pipe out of a tougher alloy and carve spiral, rifling grooves to make the projectile spin mid-flight for maximum stability and accuracy? Copperbeard's eyes glazed over in pure engineering euphoria. What if rather than raw-dogging the magic crystal directly, which is essentially holding a live grenade, and smacking it with a hammer, we engineer a way safer setup, where a tiny spark sets off a touch-sensitive primer compound, which then triggers the main crystal payload. Mora gasped, a secondary ignition sequence unlocked. Just like sparking a tiny match to get a massive bonfire blazing. It's way safer. And what if the inside of that giant Hellbomb casing is lined with pre-cut metal shards, so that when it blows up, dead silence falls over everyone? Picturing those flying shrapnel pieces expanding the kill radius. It's super brutal, but hey, war is trash anyway. Shadow Whisker, tentacles curled, Copperbeard, slammed down his entire cup of blazing heart in one single gulp. His face glowing bright sunset red right now. That doesn't count me totally in. Abhol. This is literally 1,000 times cooler than crafting boring old swords. Just hand me the materials and a crew of workers. Give me a workshop and I'll whip this bad boy up. Mora squared her shoulders back firmly. Stable energy, containment runes, and natural material alternatives are totally things I can team up with Shadow Whisker to handle. Shadow Whisker's green eyes flashed with a deep pulse, harnessing pure chaos and directing raw destruction. Turns out this is just another form of nature's balance. Specialized fungi and woods for magical conduction can be grown by me. Awesome. That sounds like a total W. My hands came together in a sharp clap. Copperbeard, you're officially the head of R&D, running the magic rifle and magic grenade projects. Mora and Shadow Whisker are on full backup duty. Hit up me or Bark directly whenever you need any resources. This is top priority, I thought while staring at those rough goblin sketches and envisioning the future. My warriors armed with dependable magic rifles. Magic grenades hooked right onto their belts. Wolf cavalry charges backed up by heavy gunfire. One last thing, safety comes first, I added quickly. Having my workshop blow sky high every other day isn't a vibe. Copperbeard was already muttering formulas under his breath and drawing up modifications in the dirt with a stick, completely ignoring me. So let's do a quick recap of my morning grind. Flipped 50 enemy wolf riders into fiercely loyal soldiers, recruited a shadow magic tree wizard, and kicked off a brand new firearms dev program, alongside a hammered dwarf, an elder shaman, and a talking bush. Just another average Tuesday at Blackstone Tribe. The tribe was looking seriously good. Actual buildings, real farmland with actual green crops sprouting up. Warriors training hard and shouting like they genuinely meant business. We had evolved from a depressing refugee camp into a legit civilization in record-breaking time. My feet were planted firmly right outside the new chief's house. Way bigger than anybody else's because, hey, that's just the sweet perks of the grind. Right when things got lit. Bart sprinted and acting like he just swallowed a spicy bee. Chief, we've got visitors from the Tiger Clan. 3 of them claiming they're official diplomats. The Tiger Clan, huh? The exact guys whose precious princess I had locked up, spanked thoroughly, and was currently feeding 3 times a day, like a super salty pet. Honestly, I'd been low-key waiting for the family to pull up, and I honestly expected an entire army. The fact that they sent diplomats first meant either they were civilized, or they were just sizing me out before dropping the hammer. Probably a little bit of both. Bring him in. I scooped up my heavy spike club, not because I genuinely needed it, but because holding a massive weapon during diplomatic talks is what we call a major power move. Lena materialized right beside me, like she'd literally been haunting that exact spot. Bloodfong lazily cracked one glowing eye open, spotted the approaching cat folks, and let out a deep growl. My entire welcoming committee was basically engineered to scream, "We come in peace, but we will absolutely wreck your day." 3 tiger warriors stepped inside, and their leader was undeniably imposing. I'll give credit where it's due, a dude named Rain Fierce Claw, standing as tall as me and easily twice as broad, with muscles so jacked. His armor looked like it was begging for absolute mercy. He rocked that classic Tiger Man aesthetic. Piercing amber eyes, that natural royal stripe pattern stamped right across his forehead, and the distinct swagger of someone who's never lost a fight, and totally knows it. Mid-peak beast general tier. Translation: this absolute unit could have wiped out the old Blackstone tribe all by himself, while casually munching on breakfast. His two bodyguards weren't slouches either, clocking in at peak B-soldier level. This little diplomatic mission was packing enough heat to level an entire neighborhood. When Rain locked eyes with me, I caught a quick flash of pure shock on his face. For maybe half a second before he smoothly masked it. He'd clearly been expecting some weak half-breed, running a low-tier garbage tribe. But instead, he found me chilling right there, radiating main character energy next to a stealthy shadow leopard girl and a terrifying one-eyed demon wolf. I am Rain Fierce Claw, stepping forth as the vanguard officer for the Tiger Royal Court. His booming voice echoed through the camp like rolling thunder. Acting on behalf of the Elder Council, I demand an audience with Chief Guadastanson. That's me. Hear about Sarah, right? Let's skip the small talk, bro. A quick blink preceded his booming laughter. The earth beneath us literally vibrated from it. Straight to business, yes. Our visit concerns Princess Sarah, though retrieving her isn't on our agenda today. Wait, what? Turns out, and this plot twist was fire. Word had somehow been sent back to her clan by Sarah herself, claiming she remained behind entirely by choice. Just to observe and learn. Yeah, observe and learn. The same girl I previously captured, tied up, and spanked. Just informed her royal family she was chilling here voluntarily, strictly for educational vibes. Keeping a straight face took every ounce of my willpower. Being the shrewd, old tigers they were, the Elder Council opted to play along with it. Their logic actually made total sense. Sarah choosing to stay save-face for tiger pride, while the chief, who thoroughly defeated her and turned a trash tribe around, was clearly a low-key genius worth studying firsthand. Consequently, they permitted her to stay, acting as a hybrid spy, student, and political pawn. It is the council's belief that the princess stands to gain a lot from exposure to your unorthodox leadership style. Rain stated this with the deadpan delivery of someone fully aware of how absurd the whole premise sounded, yet forced to voice it because of the paycheck. Playing my part flawlessly, I noted Sarah is more than welcome here. She's fierce, straight up, and her safety is fully guaranteed. Translation: your princess belongs to me now, and we both know it. Though let's keep things professional between adults. Excellent, Rain smiled, before that expression shifted into something intensely cold. The ambient air suddenly plunged by about 10 degrees. One more thing, he added, as an abrupt change, ignited his eyes with an aggressive, predatory fire. Before my departure, rumors regarding your legendary strength have reached my ears. Seeing how you beat Princess Sarah despite her immense power has stirred up quite a bit of fascination in me. Would you grant me the absolute honor of a sparring match? Boom, there was. The actual motive behind his visit was this showdown, since diplomacy was merely a warm-up appetizer. This right here was the heavy main course if I totally bombed or took a massive L. Everything I'd built up like my hard-earned reputation. And absolute respect, along with Sarah choosing to stay, would completely shatter like wet cardboard. Weaklings get zero respect from the Tiger Clan. Actually, nobody in this ruthless world does. And honestly, as I looked dead at this massive tiger warrior, whose fists were literally buzzing with pure hype, I got so stoked, whispering, "Let's get it." Rain ripped his heavy armor right off, proudly putting on display a chest that looked like someone chiseled it straight out of solid granite, before finishing it off with brutal battle scars and thick tiger fur. We're talking pure physical brawl with zero magic allowed. Just raw muscle and skill, which I agreed was totally based. I instantly tossed my heavy club and chest plate to the dirt. My own upper body wasn't looking half bad either, if I do say so myself, flexing a bit, featuring dark bronze skin with a weird golden shimmer beneath. Courtesy of my Kong bloodline, we basically looked like two custom action figures about to throw down. The crowd wisely backed way up to give us room. Ray made the opening move with terrifying speed, moving so insanely fast he was practically a blur. His signature technique, known as the heart-ripping claw, shot straight toward my chest, packing enough kinetic force to blast right through concrete. I sidestepped smoothly by a mere couple of inches, because clean efficiency is everything here, and counterpunched with a heavy right straight to his face. He caught it squarely with his forearm, creating a massive boom, sounding like two giant boulders crashing head-on together. Both of us slid backward by half a step from the impact. My knuckles were buzzing while his arm was probably screaming in protest. Locking eyes for a second, we shared the exact same vibe. Oh yeah, this is gonna slap. Kicking off round 2, he rushed me like a ferocious tornado of flashing claws, ripping, swiping, and grabbing furiously. He came at me relentlessly from every possible angle, showcasing pure, unfiltered tiger brutality that was terrifyingly fast, deeply powerful, and completely relentless. Instantly, I shifted gears into what I call my Earth Combat mode, utilizing every single lethal fighting technique from my Special Forces days, and adapting them fluidly to this absurdly strong body using crisp boxing footwork, tight MMA angles, and devastating joint locks, painful pressure points, and sharp elbow strikes, along with brutal knee strikes, transforming my entire physical form into a precise, living weapon system, where calculated efficiency completely outweighed mindless brute force. Every single dodge was executed with insane precision. All counters were targeted straight at joints, ribs, and other vulnerable soft spots. It honestly felt like watching an apex predator brawl with a cyborg, while he brought raw animalistic power to the table. I relied entirely on calculated precision. Neither side managed to land a single clean blow. My crew stood there watching with their jaws hanging wide open. A spectacle like this was completely new to them. Mental notes were being jotted down by Lena, acting as if she were sitting in a master class. Even Blood Fong stopped growling and just stared in silence, acting like a hyped fan at a championship boxing match. After a solid few minutes of a total stalemate, frustration took over reign, and he let out a fierce tiger roar, causing everyone's knees to shake uncontrollably, right before he triggered his innate racial ability. Pure furirage. A faint red glow began emanating from his skin, giving him massive speed and power buffs. Basically the tiger version of hitting the turbo button. His attacks suddenly surged with 30% more impact and speed. In response, I decided to tap straight into the calm bloodline, skipping any magic tricks for pure physical enhancement. The golden shimmer beneath my skin flared up brightly, with adrenaline pumping through my veins like a raging river. Every single cell in my body was operating at absolute maximum capacity. Any remaining hesitation vanished as we stopped messing around. And that was when the final punch came. Everything we had was poured into one single massive strike, devoid of any fancy techniques or cheap tricks. It came down to pure, unadulterated, concentrated power. A deafening thump echoed as our fists collided. A dusty shockwave blasted outward in a wide circle, forcing onlookers to stumble backward. An innocent bystander chicken nearby definitely tipped right over. 3 heavy steps backward were forced upon me, leaving deep footprints in the hard-packed dirt with each stride. My arm trembled and a metallic taste of blood hit my tongue. Meanwhile, Rain skidded backward across the ground for about 6 meters. His right hand was in a terrible state once he finally stopped. Well, to be honest, it didn't even look like a hand anymore. It was a completely shattered and broken mess. His arm bent at an unnatural angle while his face went ghost white. Victory in raw strength belonged to me, not by a massive landslide, but by a razor-thin margin. Even so, a tiny inch is all it takes. Dead silence blanketed the area before Rain took a deep, ragged breath, his eyes dropping down to gaze at his wrecked hand, before slowly locking back onto me. With a split lip, he stood his ground, low-key bleeding, and dropped the absolute wildest words I've ever heard in my life, declaring, "Lord Stanson, your strength is completely unmatched. I've taken a total, undeniable L here today. Cito soltinis, no la me excuses." Just pure, unadulterated respect, coming from a fighter who knew he just got outclassed. I gotta give it to him. I actually vibe with this guy. "You brought your A game," I said back, as I wiped a smear of blood off my jaw. Though if you had actually gone all out, instead of keeping things strictly to bare-knuckle brawling, things might have totally gone differently. Shaking his head, he replied, "A loss is a loss, plain and simple. The princess is staying put, and all our doubts are officially cleared. The Tiger Clan fully recognizes your massive power. Those words meant everything. It was official. The Tiger Royal Court had just stamped my passport. No cap. I wasn't viewed as just some random half-breed chief anymore. He patched up his scraped arm right then and there. Flesh de mea proper, formal warrior salute, and dropped one final statement before leaving. May the bond between the Tiger clan and Blackstone stand strong for all eternity. And it'll definitely stand strong, I answered, meaning every single word. Having the Tiger clan as solid allies, instead of deadly enemies, was worth more than a fortune. The moment they walked away, the whole tribe went wild with hype, since their chief had just straight up taken down a high-ranking Tiger Royal Court officer in a fist fight. Tribe morale skyrocketed through the roof and just kept climbing, while I was quietly checking over my own battle wounds. Nothing major, though that closing punch packed a serious punch. A familiar scent of sweet perfume caught my attention, and Tiger Princess Sarah stepped right out from the gathered crowd. Having watched the entire showdown unfold, her face was cycling through expressions I'd never spotted on her before, flashing through roughly 15 different emotions all at once. Pure shock, utter disbelief, reluctant respect, and something totally unexpected, a subtle warmth. She walked right up and stopped in front of me, her voice completely stripped of its usual snobby royal attitude, sounding unusually quiet and almost gentle as she asked, "Did you actually, for real, beat Uncle Rain? He is legitimately one of the absolute strongest fighters in the entire royal court." Wearing a wide grin, I shot back, "What's wrong? Are you bummed out?" Shaking her head so fast that her braided hair whipped through the air, she snapped, "No, I'm Sarah Warblade, and you totally beat me once, no cap. Now that I've watched you stun on everyone and prove your strength all over again, I'm honestly ready to give you total props for it." Then came a move from her that completely short-circuited my brain for a sec. Forward she stepped, closing the gap fast, getting way too close for comfort. Close enough that those mesmerizing gold flecks were vividly clear inside her amber eyes. She was close enough for me to physically feel the warmth radiating off her skin. With a voice low, intense, and dripping with raw fire, she stated, per the traditions of the Tiger clan, that the absolute strongest female belongs exclusively to the single male, who is badass enough to actually conquer her. Listen up, Stanson. Do you have the guts to claim me right now? Let me drop some real talk about myself. I'm a pragmatic guy, super efficient, and a firm believer in that timeless, legendary golden rule. If the universe hands you a drop-dead, gorgeous tiger princess, who is literally throwing herself at you, you don't hesitate, you just say yes. My hands gripped her waist tight, yanking her body flush against mine while I stared deep into those blazing eyes. Who in their right mind would even dare to pass up a flex like this? Starting today, Sarah Warblade, you are officially my woman. Then, because being dramatic is basically my superpower, I scooped her up and slung her over my shoulder once again, pulling the exact same stunt I used to capture her on day one, before marching with absolute confidence straight toward my chief's house. With the whole tribe watching, she gasped, "Are you out of your mind? You absolute brute, put me down right now." Her fist started hammering furiously against my back. Though I gotta be totally honest, those punches carried about as much lethal intent as a cozy pillow fight. Her face was flashing brighter red than a ripe tomato, and while she was desperately trying her hardest not to grin, she was failing spectacularly at hiding it. As the heavy wooden door clicked shut right behind us, what happened next stays classified. I'll only say that Tiger women hit with all the crazy intensity you'd ever picture. Those candles burned down deep into the night, and the wild sounds echoing out of that house suddenly made every single tribe member within hearing distance find something incredibly fascinating to stare at. In the completely opposite direction, Sarah Warblade, who was hands down the proudest, most stubborn, and most impossibly difficult woman I'd ever crossed paths with, across 2 entire lifetimes, finally belonged to me. And honestly, I think she'd been totally locked down by me ever since that wild moment at the market when I caught her ankle and dropped her hard into the dirt. It only took her a few chapters to finally own up to it. Golden morning sunlight poured through the glass, while 2 gorgeous women share my bed. Life was giving off major, main character energy in the best way possible. Curled up on my left side, Lena was purring like a literal house cat, with one of her toned legs thrown casually across mine, as if she were staking her claim. Resting on my right was Sarah, the fierce tiger princess, who went from screaming, "I'll kill you," to begging, "Don't stop." In roughly a week, her fiery red hair tangled everywhere, draped across my pillow, and honestly probably inside my mouth. Yet even asleep, she still looked fiercely proud. Some stubborn attitudes simply cannot be disciplined out of a person. Not gonna lie, though, these past few days have been a total masterclass. Turns out leopard girls and tiger girls operate on completely different vibes. While Lena was all about raw speed and agility, Sarah was driven by pure power and fierce pride. Putting them together meant my sleep schedule was officially cooked. Though I wasn't complaining at all. Plans for morning workout were crossing my mind, until Bart's voice suddenly pierced through the bedroom door, sounding like a guy who would rather be literally anywhere else. "Lord Stanson, are you awake yet? We have a serious emergency," giving both women a gentle tap on their backside, strictly as an efficient wake-up tactic. Very professional, of course. I called out for him to enter. Pushing the door open, Bart took one look at the intimate scene, turned bright red like a ripe tomato, and immediately fixed his gaze upward on the ceiling, as if plaster had become the most fascinating spectacle ever witnessed. So there's an entire delegation stationed outside, flying royal banners. Some high-class human official accompanied by kingdom guards, claiming he carries direct commands from the monarch, the actual king of the entire beast kingdom, dispatching an official emissary straight to my tribe. The very same tribe that 3 months ago was living in squalor and getting beaten in brawls by angry squirrels. Well, that piece of news woke me up way faster than a cup of coffee. Lena and Sarah instantly switched into combat mode, snatching up their armor and strapping on weapons in a flash, transforming from sleepy cuddle partners into lethal warriors. In about 4 seconds flat, talk about professional queens. Stepping outside into the open air, I honestly wasn't ready for what was waiting for us. Right in the dead center of my camp, standing tall, was the most utterly punchable guy I've ever laid eyes on. Draped in silk robes with a ridiculous feathered hat, he had a ghostly pale face completely devoid of facial hair. A silk handkerchief was in his hand, used to dab at imaginary dust while he glared down my tribe, acting like he had just stepped right into something gross. Guarding his flanks were 10 heavily armored Lion Clan soldiers, with every single one of them being elite royal muscle. Giving me a slow once-over, the silk freak sized me up, with the exact vibe of someone inspecting a stray bug. You're that half-breed they call Stanson, the new chief of this dump. That's me. Humph. You certainly kept me waiting. With a quick flick of his wrist, out came a fancy scroll, complete with gold threads and a red wax seal, which he unrolled with maximum, over-the-top dramatic flair. Without missing a beat, he started reading it aloud, in the most annoying, sing-song voice you could ever imagine. "By the grace of the heavens, the king decrees we have heard that within our kingdom, the Blackstone tribe possesses a warrior named Stanson, of exceptional talent and extraordinary courage, who has awakened ancient powers and manifested shamanic miracles. Truly a blessed omen. Such brilliance must not languish in the wilderness. We hereby summon warrior Stanson to proceed immediately to the royal capital, Thundercliff, to receive the king's personal commendation and reward. So, it is decreed." Translation: converting fancy royal garbage into normal person language. "We heard you're getting powerful, so get your butt to the capital, so we can figure out if we should recruit you, control you, or just off you." The silkworm stared right at me with his signature. "You should be thanking me, face." "Well, aren't you going to thank the king for his infinite grace? This kind of honor is way more than your pathetic little tribe deserves in 10 lifetimes. All around me, my tribe members were shifting nervously, torn between the clout of royal recognition and the terrifying feeling that this was basically a snake inviting them over for dinner. Blinking slowly, I put on my absolute best. "Oh wow, I'm so honored, face, worthy of an Academy Award." Bending low, Stanson pays his respects to his majesty with total submission. "I'll get right on it." The silkman nodded back, low-key vibing. My groveling had clearly hit the spot. Then his gaze drifted away from me straight toward Lena and Sarah. I watched his expression morph on the spot, shifting from bored disdain into a super sketchy, hungry appreciation. He looked like an absolute rat spotting a piece of cheese. "If you feel like bringing your girls along," he chimed in, his voice dripping with major creep energy. "The capital is seriously magnificent. It'd honestly be great for them to expand their horizons." Sarah's hand immediately twitched down toward her deadly claws. One sharp look from me shut that down instantly. Not yet, Tiger Girl. Just hold your horses. Once the royal circus finally rolled out, hard reality hit us. This was undeniably a total trap. Bark blurted out. The king doesn't just invite random nobodies to the capital, just for friendly cookies and compliments. He's trying to get his claws on you, or worse, control me or flat out assassinate me to wipe out a threat. I jumped in to finish his sentence. Yeah, no capítulo. I already knew. Lena frowned deeply. Thundercliff is totally packed with overpowered warriors. Word is that the Lion King Reinhardt is basically Emperor tier. Rolling up over there with just our tiny crew is a suicide mission. Even Sarah chimed in with her 2 cents. My old tribe got summoned like this once before. The king always runs on that classic carrot and stick playbook. Submit and live large, or fight back and get wiped out. Your raw power? It completely throws them off, so they'll never let a wild card slide. Every single pair of eyes was locked on me, acting like I was about to walk straight into a wood chipper. I flashed them a grin, the truly unhinged kind. Dangerous? Oh, absolutely. But you know what else? This is low-key the biggest flex and opportunity we've ever been handed. They just stared. Think about it for a second. The royal capital of Thundercliff is the ultimate hub where all the insane resources live. That's where all the insider intel, talent, and blueprints are. And all the power connections, too. We could just chill right here in our sleepy little valley, farming potatoes and grinding out soldiers for the next 10 years, and still remain total nobodies. Or we can march straight into the lion's den, play their high-stakes game, and walk out with literally everything. We need to evolve into an absolute powerhouse. Slowly, I raised the fancy scroll high. So the king wants to test me, bet. I'm going to size him right back since he thinks he can play me. I'll totally flip the script on him. This invite is way more than just a regular summons. It's literally our golden ticket to the big leagues. Smirking as a familiar hometown, saying cross my mind. Only a total clown passes up a sweet deal. Having 3 days to prep for this capital run. Every single minute was put to good use. Secret weapons took top priority. Those old goblin blueprints were dug up, and my sharpest tech guys were tasked to hack together a few prototypes. Magic crystal pistols alongside some explosive crystal grenades. Were they dependable, though? Hell no. Nah. They were about as stable as a wasted guy riding a unicycle. Still, if everything went completely sideways down in the capital, even a janky, sketchy surprise, boom is way better than no boom at all. Gotta love those hidden aces, baby. Secondly, sitting down with Mora was a must, to figure out how to fine-tune my ultra bloodlust ability, rather than just letting loose everywhere. Like some magical fire hose, precision was practiced instead. Single target locking, controlled radius, and variable intensity. If some random person in the capital tried testing me, exact precision was the goal rather than just a messy blast. Third up, supplies. All my valuable items were stashed right into my storage ring. Some of our best crop seeds came along for the ride, too. Agricultural experts might actually be found in the capital, or perhaps much better growing conditions await. Always keeping that long-term grind in mind. That's the true Stanson way forth. Personal choices were made. Mark stays behind to manage the tribe, while Mora stays put to back him up. Lena is coming along with me, obviously, because her scouting skills and blades are totally necessary. And then Sarah, well, Sarah insisted on coming. With a flushed face, yet her chin held high, she declared, I know my way around the capital. Certain nobles they're known to me, so I can definitely be useful. Besides, casting a deeply piercing gaze with those amber eyes, that felt dangerously close to genuine affection. She added, I'm your woman now, wherever you roll. I roll too, leaving me to think about it for roughly 2 seconds. A tiger clan princess, who actually understands the political layout of the capital. Calling her a girlfriend completely misses the point. She's a high-level strategic asset, who just low-key happens to be drop-dead gorgeous on top of that. With her tagging along, Bloodfawn was coming right beside us too, without a single word needing to be spoken by anyone. After all, nothing radiates don't mess with me. Energy quite like a gigantic, one-eyed demon wolf exhaling sulfur fumes into the open air. Day 3, our departure was officially underway. To send us off properly, the entire tribe had assembled. For a change, a surprisingly solid fit was put on by me. Sleek black leather, with combat gear layered underneath my Wolf Clan chest armor, a heavy spiked club resting over my shoulder, and my storage ring tucked away secretly beneath a glove. Standing under the light, Lena straight up embodied a lethal walking blade, geared up in tight armor with twin swords strapped on, totally expressionless yet radiating maximum danger. Traditional Tiger Clan attire was worn by Sarah, popping in bold red and black, radiating pure royal energy for the simple reason that she was literal royalty. Under the bright sun, Bloodfang's deep red fur gleamed, shimmering like liquid murder, and no cap, our squad looked fire, looking like an in-game RPG party stepping straight into the final boss dungeon. Hold down the fort while I'm away. I instructed the tribe, keep up the farming, push through training, and keep constructing so that upon my return, a far more powerful Blackstone will be waiting for me. Understood, Lord Stan's son. May your travel be safe and your return victorious. A unified shout erupted from everyone, making the surrounding valley walls literally tremble. One last gaze was cast by me toward my humble tribe, this sanctuary that had been built ground up from absolute zero, alongside these very people who leveled up from starving nobodies into legit warriors. With eyes beaming with hope before I finally turned toward the road. Time to roll out. Two humanish dudes, accompanied by a tiger princess and one giant demon wolf, marching headfirst into the single most hazardous spot that exists across the entire realm, where the most formidable powerhouses on the continent would have their gaze locked on us, evaluating our every move and low-key scheming my demise. As for my squad, we had a leopard girl assassin, a former enemy princess dealing with massive anger issues, plus a wolf whose solution to every problem was eating it whole. Tucked away in my loadout were my secret weapons, super janky prototype guns capable of exploding right in my hands, experimental grenades with completely unpredictable explosive yield, a volatile blood rage ability that had barely been mastered by me, and a dimensional storage ring packed to the brim with seeds and top-tier loot. The playbook is simple. Waltz right in, don't get clipped, loot literally anything that isn't bolted down, and low-key level up on the flip side. Thundercliff on a Tuesday? I'm pulling up, so you better be prepped because best believe, I'm not about to act civilized. A few days out from the Blackstone tribe, pushing northeast toward the capital. Alongside Lena and Bloodfang, the scenery was low-key shifting, fading from dead wasteland into actual greenery with trees and vibes. Stealth mode was locked in via back roads and game trails, shading major outposts entirely. Low profile, keeping it super hush. Then Bloodfang suddenly hit the brakes. When your giant one-eyed death wolf instantly freezes mid-stride to start growling at a random bush. Asking questions is off the table. You just zip it and lock in. Something wicked dead ahead, Lena whispered, her cat-like eyes narrowing down. One life signature hanging by a thread. Yet the bloodlust radiating off it is razor sharp, giving major broken sword still trying to chop energy. Poetic, yet totally terrifying. A hand signal sent Lena and Bloodfang sweeping wide to the flanks, leaving me to creep forward solo. For a unit of my build, I can move dead silent when the motivation hits. And honestly, an unidentified death threat hiding in the foliage is top-tier motivation. Parting the dead branches revealed a straight-up crime scene. First thing catching my eye, totaled humans. 4 or 5 mercenaries decked out in matching leather armor. And calling them dead is putting it wildly lightly. One dude was sliced straight down the center line, like a giant butcher knife had been dropped with a casual. I wonder if this hacks people attitude. Another was completely missing all 4 limbs, while a third had his throat opened up so flawlessly. It looked clinical, every single elimination precision engineered, hyper-efficient, and horrifyingly close to high art. Second thing registering, the culprit behind the massacre. Slumped back against a decaying tree, clinging to life by a thread, sat a literal mantis man. Yeah, you read that right. An actual mantis man, standing roughly human height, though rail-thin with ridiculously lanky limbs. Encased in dark green chitin armor, pure organic bagshell. His triangular head featured massive compound eyes glowing with a faint, dying pulse. Antennae drooping way too long like sad noodles. And his forearms? Those weren't arms at all. They were lethal blades. Biological swords literally formed his actual forearms, low-key insane. They were serrated and gleaming wickedly. Air molecules could practically be sliced in half by their razor edge. These natural-born weapons were permanently fused to his anatomy. Yet, he was barely 30 seconds away from flatlining. A gaping wound tore diagonally across his upper body, slashing his chest and stomach almost into two separate pieces. Dried green blood smeared everywhere on the dirt. Cracks and severe fractures riddled his shell armor, completely wrecking it in multiple spots. He looked like a busted action figure that someone had ruthlessly stomped on, but even on the verge of death. Those lethal blade arms were still angled, with lethal precision for a strike. His battered physique remained locked in a tactical combat stance. Muscle memory was dialed in so deep for this guy that he stayed ready to throw hands, even while actively fading away. That isn't mere training. That's literally being born built different. Blood-raven mercenaries. Lena reported aloud after checking the body's insignia patch. A nasty outfit that survives strictly on sketchy bounty jobs, ranging from slave hunting to raw monster extermination. They were probably tracking him down exclusively for his arm blades. Arrogant, rich humans love collecting those rare trophies, paying mercenaries cold cash to hunt down an innocent sentient being. Just for body parts? What a top-tier species. Humans are honestly elite, aren't they? Now here is the real kicker. Any basic person would look at a dying bugman and think, tragic, time to move on. My thought process? A dying bugman who single-handedly wiped out 5 armed mercenaries while completely mortally wounded, wielding blade arms capable of slicing a person clean in half, backed by combat instincts so deeply ingrained that they still function right at death's door. I need this guy because my tribe could use exactly this energy. A supreme individual frontline fighter, a certified assassination specialist, someone fully equipped to drill elite warriors and execute high-stakes special missions. This Mantis warrior was an absolute diamond, just sitting inside a grim pile of dead mercenaries. And all I had to do was scoop him up. Only an absolute clown passes up an opportunity like this. Dropping my heavy club, I flash my open palms outward. The universal, chill, I'm not here to assassinate you gesture, and stepped forward slowly, murmuring, hey buddy, looks like you've had a rough afternoon. Care for some hydration? Like tracking lasers, his compound eyes locked right onto me. A faint metallic hum caused his blade arms to vibrate softly. It was practically the Mantis way of saying, step any closer and I'll slice you into cold cuts. Mad respect to him, because even on death's door, he was ready to take me down with him. A quick gulp came from my water bag next, proving up front that it wasn't laced with anything. Dropping it to the dirt, I slid the container across the floor toward him. Those goons who jumped you were pushing daisies now anyway, and we're just passing through. Back and forth, his gaze shifted from the water to me, then landed right back on the water. Parched out his mind, he hooked the strap smoothly using a single blade arm. Not gonna lie, that was some low-key impressive dexterity for a sword hand, and proceeded to swallow small, desperate gulps. Once he was done, he let out this tiny breath that felt like pure relief, masquerading as, I seriously can't believe I'm still breathing. What do you want? He rasped out, his voice sounding like metal scraping hard against a sheet of tin. Honestly, it was super painful to listen to. You after my blades or the bounty price on my head? Neither, man. Pulling some freshly roasted meat straight out of my storage ring. I noticed his compound eyes twitch at the sight of the ring. Anyway, filing that reaction under obvious, I tossed a generous chunk right over to him, putting the aroma of delicious food against a starving, exhausted creature wasn't even a remotely fair match. Spearing the meat expertly with one blade, he consumed it with absolute mechanical precision, measuring every single bite to the exact same size. It was flawlessly efficient with zero wasted energy whatsoever. Even the way he ate was low-key optimized for pure combat readiness. This guy was wild, but with actual food and water in his system. He finally opened up. I am Kareth, a proud blade dancer hailing from the Emerald Blade tribe. A brief spark of pride flashed across his features before plunging back into shadows. My entire tribe is gone, completely wiped out by humans clad in pitch-black armor, who commanded rotting monsters. Their strength was terrifying, leaving me as the sole survivor. A sudden tremor ran through his blade arms, driven not by physical weakness, but by boiling rage and deep grief. Those mercenaries were nothing more than bloodhound trackers, dispatched solely to collect my head for their master's payout. Long story short, some crazy necromancer army completely annihilated his people, and now greedy bounty hunters were hunting down the last survivor, just for quick cash. Man, That whole situation was straight up tragic and messed up. It served as the ultimate setup for my recruiting pitch. I know that sounds cold, and trust me, it totally is. But an entire nation's being built from scratch here, powered by a whole crew of absolute underdogs. And sentimentality definitely doesn't win wars. Pragmatism is where it's at, especially when a battered, homeless, and revenge-obsessed master swordsman with deadly biological weapon arms shows up, marking the most practical opportunity I'd run across in weeks. Time to seal the deal right now, putting on my signature empathetic yet brutally honest expression. A total specialty of mine, I immediately got to work. So what's your game plan, Kareth? Just keep sprinting around with your guts spilling out until the next squad of bounty hunters finishes you off for good and ends up hanging you as some rich guy's living room trophy. Direct hit because he instantly flinched. A true warrior's final destination is the battlefield. Dying by a sharp blade beats rotting away in total obscurity. That, I stated deadpan, is the absolute dumbest take I've heard today. And trust me, I've actually talked to orcs. Real warriors make their enemies do the rotting. You claim you want payback, but staying a corpse ruins those odds. Survival and power are your prerequisites here. Then, you head back to slaughter every single one of those black armored freaks. His compound eyes flared intensely, igniting a tiny spark of life amid the surrounding gloom, before it flickered out, getting stronger. How am I supposed to, being completely homeless and half dead? Time to drop the ultimate sales pitch, releasing 4 strategic bullet points targeted straight at his core needs. Like a heat-seeking missile. Number 1. Holding up a single finger, guaranteed food and water. Roll with me and you'll eat proper meals every single day, featuring prime meat and purified water. Plentiful enough to heal up and train hard. Number 2. Allowing a subtle wisp of vital energy to emanate from my frame, channeling ancient tree essence packed with pure restorative power, far surpassing anything an ordinary shaman could ever conjure. Karatha's whole physical form convulsed sharply, his compound eyes suddenly blazing with supernova brilliance. He could tangibly feel an energy so extraordinarily potent and pristine. It operated on a totally different tier from anything he'd ever encountered. I can completely heal you, curing that exact wound that's slowly killing you right now. I got the fix. Number 3, proper armor. Tapsing purposefully against my own chest plate. Your sick blades are honestly top tier, yet your defense is low-key absolute trash. One solid hit and you're totally done for. Custom armor covering all those weak spots is on me. Trash tier mercenaries won't ever gut you like that again. To emphasize my point, I gave one of the dead bounty hunters a cold kick. The big one crashed down hard. Just a tiny fraction of my bloodline pressure was unleashed. That raw calm aura, straight up ancient god-beast vibes, flashing for barely half a second. Karatha's blade arms started humming away, totally against his own will, resonating with my sheer power like tuning forks. His entire body locked up rigid. Every single survival instinct wired in his mantis DNA went crazy, screaming apex predator at max volume. I can buff you way stronger than you've ever been, hooking you up with training methods you've never seen, and power levels you didn't even know existed, making you strong enough to roll back and completely destroy whoever wiped out your tribe. Food, healing armor, and power for things he desperately needed right now. All things I could easily provide, delivered straight by a guy radiating the vibe that I'm the scariest thing roaming this dark forest, while also being his absolute only lifeline. Needless to say, I'm pretty cracked at job interviews. Why? He croaked, dropping the final question of a total skeptic. Why help me out, and what's the catch? I flashed him a genuine, honest smile. Zero tricks involved, just pure, naked transactional clarity. Because I seriously need your blades. I witnessed what you pulled off against 5 armed dudes, while your guts were literally spilling onto the ground. That kind of talent is exactly what I want on my squad. Ally with my tribe and swear your loyalty. Your lethal blades will fight for me. In return, my enemies become yours alongside survival, strength, and sweet revenge. No handouts given here. Fair deal, right? A cold rain started pouring down, the opening drop hitting a fallen leaf with a tiny splat, followed quickly by another, and then many more. Kareth just sat there in the drenching rain, his compound eyes flickering frantically like a busted traffic light, weighing pride versus survival, independence versus opportunity. Die free or live useful. I didn't rush him for an answer. Didn't pressure him at all, just stood there steady, while rain rolled smoothly down my armor plates, straight up looking like exactly what I was. He was staring down the absolute best deal he'd ever be offered, in a slow and agonizing fashion. One single blade arm was used by him to hoist his battered frame up from the slick ground while wobbling, shaking violently and dripping with both neon green blood and cold rain. Stepping back to let him handle it, I refused to lift a finger. That much effort was simply demanded by a true warrior's pride. He managed to stand barely, those alien compound eyes locked straight onto mine. His triangular head was then dipped low in submission, a gesture of total acceptance, sustenance, recovery, power, and sweet retribution. Cutting right through the downpour came his metallic, scraping voice. An offer like yours is impossible for me to pass up. I, Kara, the remaining heir of the Emerald Blade, gladly take your terms, as my deadly blades are now yours. Just make sure you stick to your word, big guy. Hearing that was absolute music to my ears. What a smart play. Healing salve and bandages were quickly yanked out of my ring by me. Without wasting a single second, Lena jumped in to patch him up while keeping an eye on the foam. Make sure you watch our perimeter closely. Moving swiftly with the medical supplies came Lena, her hands moving with gentle and surgical precision. As she worked her magic, Karatha's tense muscles gradually unwound. Bloodfang remained seated right out in the rain, radiating an aura that was both majestic and terrifying. Honestly, that is basically his permanent default setting. Hanging back a few paces, I stood watching as my newest recruit got pieced back together in the mud. My mind immediately raced to maximize his lethal blade techniques, seamlessly blending multi-combustil straight into my elite warrior training regimen, figuring out the best gear loadout and tactical deployment for him. Coming down much harder now, the rain poured, washing away both the green gore and the stench of death. Updating the checklist for this chaotic road trip. Objective: hunt down cool stuff. Status: found. Dying mantis assassin equipped with natural sword arms. Objective: recruit prime talent. Status: achieved. Successfully recruited a bleeding mantis assassin wielding razor arms, adding one terrifying specialist straight to the top of roster C. My squad was scaling up hard, running ops with god-tier powers, featuring a stealthy leopard girl shadow assassin, a fiery tiger princess with serious anger management issues, a fierce one-eyed demon wolf, and now a mantis blade dancer, capable of slicing a guy cleanly in half, while missing most of his own vital internal organs. We were shaping up to be the most dangerous crew alive, a crew rolling through this continent. Or perhaps the punchline to some twisted cosmic joke. Honestly, probably a bit of both. Thundercliff, the capital of the Beast Kingdom. Let me set the scene for you. Picture a bunch of orcs being told to construct a city with "go big and scary" as their only design brief. Colossal walls built from rough, jagged boulders stand there, riddled with burn marks and battle scars. You'll spot bear carvings and wolf skulls literally everywhere. Dusty winds whip through war banners representing every tribe, from wolves and tigers to lions and bulls. You name it, they've got it. 5 elephants could easily walk side by side through the main gate, flanked by 200-foot stone statues. One shows a furious warrior, yelling at the heavens with a shattered axe, while the other features an ancient shaman wielding ghost fire. Subtle? Not exactly. Impressive? Absolutely. The second we rolled through those gates, we became the most stared-at group in town. Go figure why, right? Maybe they were looking at me, a massive half-orc in heavy plate, wielding a spiked club. That outweighs your average person. Maybe it was Lena, the leopard girl assassin, giving off some serious, touch me and you're dead vibes. Could have been Bark and my dozen battle-hardened vets, marching in such a tight formation. They looked ready to kill on command. Or perhaps it was Bloodfang, that one-eyed, oversized demon wolf, whose presence alone caused every mount within 50 meters to lose its mind and bolt. We were about as subtle as a brass band playing at a funeral. And because the universe has such a trash sense of humor, hardly 5 minutes had passed before some wealthy moron decided to trigger me. "What are you clowns staring at? You bunch of yokels?" Some rat-faced lackey squeaked out. By the gates, he glanced over. A group of overdressed young orcs were lounging about, like they owned the joint. And in the middle sat Garush, a pale, pretty boy wolf clan member, decked out in silk threads embroidered with gold wolves, whirling a gemstone-encrusted riding crop around, as if he were trying out live on stage 4. the world's most punchable person award. A massive, high-end looking riding wolf carried him, though it gave off that total spoiled pet energy where it's all bark and totally zero survival instincts. As for the guy himself, it looked like he had never hit a single push-up, yet he had definitely put in plenty of work on various other nocturnal activities. His skin carried that classic I party too hard pallor. Suddenly his rat-faced buddy pointed right at us and giggled. Some backwater tribe brought a mutant wolf, and actually thinks they're important. And that leopard girl, she's got such a wild look to her. Creepy laughter rippled through the whole group. Then Garush, that silk-wearing, crop-twirling, daddy's money waste of oxygen, locked his eyes straight onto Lena, like she was a fresh cut of meat sitting at a buffet. He licked his lips. He literally licked his lips out there in public, riding his mount forward. He pointed his jeweled crop right at Lena and declared, "Hey, leopard girl, what tribe are you rolling with? Ditch these total losers and come hang with me, because I'll dress you up in gold and silk, which is way better than following these broke nobodies around." Lena's pupils instantly shifted into vertical slits, glowing with pure murder mode, but I had warned everyone before we stepped in. Stay chill and don't start any random fights, since the capital politics are way too complicated. Swallowing down her fiery rage, she shot him the absolute coldest side-eye in recorded history and then looked away. Big mistake, not hers, mind you, but his, because being completely ignored was apparently the one thing this massive man-child couldn't handle. "Bitch, you should be grateful." His face suddenly twisted into an ugly snarl, and his riding crop cracked sharply through the air. "Boys, grab that leopard girl right now, and if anyone dares to get in your way, just beat them half to death." His personal bodyguard squad, actual lethal, trained soldiers instead of that clown posse, drew their weapons and closed in fast. These guys were clearly the real deal, seasoned fighters who spelled serious danger. Instantly, the surrounding crowd gave way. Furious glares filled the air, though not a single person dared to utter a peep. Turns out that pulling this kind of toxic mess was just a typical Tuesday afternoon for this Garush guy. Being the son of Grand Blood Hollow, who commanded the entire city garrison, came with perks. So Junior essentially held a permanent VIP, do-whatever-I-want pass. At least until today, that is. Death Bark bellowed out, while stepping right in front of Lino with his stone axe gripped tight, every single muscle bulging fiercely. Instantly, my warriors formed a defensive triangle, positioning themselves right behind him as a squad of 12 outnumbered guys. Yet every single one of them had survived hardcore actual combat and was radiating, "We'll absolutely murk you and die trying" energy. That intense aura stopped the charging bodyguards dead in their tracks. For a split second, Bloodfang dropped into a lethal attack posture, while sulfur breath hissed and leaked from his massive jaws. One golden I locked squarely on a Garush, like a high-tech targeting system. Just one word from me, and that pretty boy becomes instant wolf food. No cap, literally, but I happen to have a way better play. Calmly patting Bloodfang down, I stepped forward past everybody else and faced Garush directly with absolute composure. Controlled and totally ice-cold. "Young master," I stated plainly, my voice low and heavy, carrying that chilling quietness that forces all background noise to halt. "We are official delegates hailing from the Blackstone tribe, who were summoned to the capital by a formal royal invitation. My companion is certainly not property, nor is she ever for sale. So please take your people and walk away." It was polite, reasonable, and clear, offering him an easy out, which he stubbornly decided to ignore. "Blackstone? What the hell is even that? Never heard of such garbage." He laughed as if I had just cracked a joke. His riding crop was practically tapping against my nose. "Some random tribal delegate actually thinks he has the right to talk back to me. New plan, I want that leopard girl and your freakish wolf right now. And all of you need to drop straight down on your knees. Bang your foreheads against the ground 3 times in submission. Then crawl directly between my legs. And maybe, if I'm feeling generous, I'll let you live." My warrior's eyes flushing bright red with fury. Mark's knuckles turned stark white as he gripped his axe handle. Every single one of them was fully prepared to die right on the spot, rather than ever accept such a degrading insult. And so was I. Every shred of politeness vanished completely off my face, like a splash of water hitting a red-hot skillet. "And if I say no?" Cackling loudly, Garush taunted back. "Then your legs are getting snapped, and you're going straight into the moat. Moving on my command, his bodyguards rush forward, defend and counter. With 2 ice-cold words spoken, my squad operated like a well-oiled machine, striking in 3-man cells exactly how we drilled. Completely disciplined, yet ruthlessly surgical. Locking right onto joints, throats, and vital weak spots. These guys weren't mindless brawlers, they were lethal operators. Anticipating a bunch of panicked country bumpkins, the bodyguards got a rude awakening from actual special forces instead, as FARC went totally berserk, sending a bodyguard flying with his very first axe swing. The poor guy's sword snapped instantly upon impact, and he pinwheeled through the air like a tossed doll. Transforming into a blur of dark motion, Lena flashed her twin blades, slicing through anyone trying to flank our position, smoothly sliding like a hot knife, cutting through totally bewildered butter. Blood misted the air while men screamed in panic. And as for me, I had one main objective, launching off my wolf mount like a heat-seeking missile, straight toward Garush's face. His 2 elite personal bodyguards, true veteran fighters, threw themselves directly into my path. Swords raised high amidst a deafening clang and boom. One opponent's sword shattered down the middle the second it hit my club, while the other guard's shield and arm crumbled away like crumpled aluminum foil, sending him flying, though Garush frantically raised his fancy, jeweled crop to block with a sharp crack. The crop shattered into a shower of glitter, and a massive shockwave knocked Garush right off his wolf, sending him flying about 8 meters to bounce twice, before rolling through the dirt and coughing up blood. Total elapsed time was easily under 4 seconds. Watching their boss get sent, ragdolling through midair, his bodyguards collectively muttered an "oh no," while my warriors witnessed that exact same spectacle and collectively cheered. Oh yes, pressing the attack with twice the ferocity. Hitting the ground, I planted my heavy club into the earth with a dull thud, and looked down with a cold stare at the groaning, dust-covered, blood-spitting heap of silk and pure entitlement that used to be Garush. You're all completely useless. Struggling back to his feet, his face twisted in pure rage and humiliation. You are dead meat, and my father's going to totally destroy you. Blackstone tribe, I'm feeding every single one of you to the dogs. Closing the distance, I closed in on him with a single measured step. His own threat got completely stuck right in his throat. Pushing forward, I kept advancing step by deliberate step. Every single move was painfully calculated, draining every last ounce of color from his terrified face, bringing my movement to a halt right before him. I stared downward, looking way down at his trembling frame, zero cares given about his dad, keeping my tone deceptively calm and conversational, which just happened to be my absolute deadliest vibe. Try pulling that stunt with me or my crew again, and next time, your precious whip and ego won't be the only things shattering. My gaze dropped straight to his mouth, focusing heavily on his teeth. Both hands flew up to clamp over his lips instantly, looking like a panicked kid hearing the dreaded dentist is here, scrambling backward in pure shock without uttering another sound. Right then, the actual city guards finally rolled up, the certified pros, taking in the absolute wreckage with a single glance. The squad leader spotted Garush caked in dirt and blood, and immediately flashed that classic look of, "Oh God, not this absolute menace again." Snapping out a demand, he barked what happened. Instantly flipping the switch, Garush went full victim mode. They jumped me, lock them up right now, throw them straight into the deepest dungeon. I stepped up with total composure. We are delegates of the Blackstone tribe, operating under official royal summons. This clown attempted to kidnap my companion and ordered an ambush, forcing us to defend ourselves. Sweeping my hand across the area, I noted everyone here witnessed it. Not a single person dared speak, utterly terrified of Garush's family. Even so, their guilty silence, coupled with downcast eyes, spelled out the truth, far louder than any spoken words. Visible gears were turning inside the squad leader's head, dealing with an entitled noble brat versus dangerously capable outsiders, who happened to be entirely in the right. His mounting migraine was practically glowing, just as he was struggling to pick the least terrible option. Sweet relief walked right in as a towering bullman, shaman bearing the name Kane Rune Totem, exuding middle-aged dignity, draped in traditional ceremonial shaman robes, and carrying the absolute aura of someone who has zero patience for any nonsense. Low-key, The guy practically ran this whole town with some serious clout. It took him literally 3 seconds to scope out the entire scene, casting a cold glare right at Garush. Your conduct brings shame upon your old man's legacy, comma. He dropped that line before turning to the guard captain, making it crystal clear that Garush totally messed up, and he would handle it himself, no cap. Case closed while Garush turned beet red with absolute fury. It was way too terrified of Kane to even mouth off. One final, piercing glare was shot at me and Lena, carrying that specific kind of vibe that says, I am dedicating every second of my existence to ruining your life, before he limped off into the shadows with his battered goons. This game isn't over yet, that scathing look screamed. Yeah, I know, because it's always like this with clowns like him. Striding over with an exhausted grin, Kane approached me. Chief Guido, welcome to Thundercliff, man. Not gonna lie, that whole hyped-up welcome wasn't really on my bingo card. I replied, appreciate you jumping in to save the day. Letting out a heavy sigh, he answered. The Bloodhallow family wields crazy influence around these parts, with General Grump Bloodhallow himself pulling the strings at the city garrison. Seriously, you just made an insanely dangerous enemy today. Watch your back. Gazing toward the exact spot where Garush had vanished into the crowd, keeping my expression totally stone cold, I said, I'm grateful for the heads up. Shaman Kane. Though running away from trouble was never part of my agenda, problems don't just magically disappear because you ghost them. Fixing his gaze on me for a long, heavy second, deep respect flickered brightly in his eyes, mixed with a lot of anxiety since he knew I spelled pure chaos. Whether that chaos was the helpful or destructive kind was still TBD. Moving out, I called out to my squad. Go scout out a decent spot to pitch camp. Deeper into the bustling city streets, we marched. Every single one of my warriors suddenly standing a bit taller, with their chests pushed out and spines rigid, and eagle eyes scanning the perimeter. They had just gotten their ultimate crash course in high-stakes capital politics. Some punk tries to flex on you. You put them right in their place, then a bigger boss rolls up on the block, and you desperately need an ally to back you up. Welcome to the big leagues, folks. Inside my mind, the mental blueprints for this whole operation were already sketching out. Garush was just an annoying mosquito buzzing around, essentially serving as a minor symptom of a deeper rot. Because his old man, General Grand Bloodhowl, turned out to be the real boss-level threat, a guy commanding terrifying military might. Political ties are now personal beef, low-key, since I totally put his kid on blast in public. Barely 5 minutes and the capital managed to score me. One major enemy right off the bat. We hadn't even checked into our rooms yet, seriously. Talk about a brand new personal best. Let me break down Thundercliff for you guys, because it's honestly wild. Picture someone carving out the biggest hole on Earth and dropping an entire metropolis right down inside it. Stone layers spiral down the walls block by block, with heavy iron chains connecting every building, and war banners draped all over the absolute bottom. The throne room down there reeked of leather, steely cold blood, and smoky barbecue. It basically felt like a medieval fortress in a huge ditch. Had a baby, and that kid was purely furious. As we marched down the main drag toward the throne room, surprise, everyone was clowning on us out loud. Look at these random monkey folks walking in Thundercliff. That leopard girl, though, is totally wasted hanging with those losers. Wait, is that a stick with teeth? That's literally his weapon, haha. My warriors were turning beet red with rage, and Bark looked like he was about to pop off. But I'd already given strict orders to swallow it. Keep your cool and act tough. As for me, I was mentally mapping out guard placements, escape vectors, choke points, and structural blind spots. Just old special forces habits kicking in. Every room is either safe territory or a total kill box. So you just better figure out which one before someone else does it. Suddenly, the massive throne room doors swung wide, as 2 Lion Clan guards built like absolute fridges pushed them apart. A sudden heavy wave of intense pressure slammed right into us. It wasn't physical pressure, it was pure psychological weight. This hall was custom built to make you feel tiny, featuring giant stone pillars and ancient worm murals, while blazing whale oil fire pits lined both sides of the walkway, along with the VIP heavyweights, chieftains and reps representing every major clan present. Wolves, lions, tigers, and bulls. Every single one of them was totally radiating that toxic, I could wipe you out seated energy. Every pair of eyes was scanning us, doing the exact same math. Just how strong is this guy, and can I take him down? Perched at the very top of 9 rising steps, occupying a throne, sculpted entirely out of solid black obsidian, sat King Grom Hellscream. This absolute unit totally caught me off guard, expecting some boring, dusty old politician type. Instead, I found Grom in his absolute prime, standing massive as hell, with battle scars sprawled across him like a road map of pure chaos, sporting fiery red hair blazing like a campfire on his skull, and glaring with eyes that could low-key incinerate things, purely through sheer willpower while sitting completely still, making the entire chamber feel like it was literally vibrating, radiating an aura that hit like a physical truck, blending wild berserker rage with absolute royal dominance, causing half the people in the hall to utterly fail at holding his gaze. 20 paces away from the throne, I finally halted, slamming my fist hard against my chest, recalling the crash course Lena had drilled into me on the walk over. And man, thank God for that absolute lifesaver of a woman, before dropping into a sharp, respectful yet non-groveling bow, which was a crucial distinction, reporting as Good Distanson, chieftain of the Blackstone tribe, to answer the royal summons, making double sure my voice didn't waver even an inch, knowing every other small-time chief who had ever stood here probably sounded like a shivering chihuahua facing off against a Great Dane. Though not me, as Grom locked eyes with me for 5 solid seconds, dragging out a tense, agonizing silence that would easily make innocent people confess to crimes, before grunting out Blackstone tribe, his voice rumbling like gravel wrapped in heavy thunder. I recall a pathetic little crew cowering in some dark corner, starving to death until Old Core finally kicked the bucket, meaning the former chief has now returned to the ancestors, and I've taken over, causing him to lean forward slightly, doubling the atmospheric pressure instantly. Hey, half-breed, you honestly even smell a bit human. So how'd you grab that seat? And how on earth did you wipe out a Bloodscar 100-man squad and completely ransack Garl's camp? Sudden murmurs broke out across both sides of the room, proving my reputation had totally arrived ahead of me, which was majorly helpful, as the court's gazes shifted from pure contempt to a collective weight. This guy actually pulled it off, prompting me to flash an easy, casual smile, as if we were just chatting about the afternoon weather, just a little tactical terrain advantage, just a little clever thinking, plus some heavy-duty magic they couldn't even wrap their heads around. If the ghost of Garl has any beef, he's totally invited to pull up and talk it out. Intriguing. Brahm's gaze flickered with a mix of respect and massive scheming, figuring Mad Dog Garl was pretty useless anyway. But realizing your little trash, tribe might actually pull their weight. Here it drops. The Makora Warrior Tournament is kicking off. Soon every single nation brings their absolute best game. You're standing right here because I need to see what you're made of. Makora, the big leagues. The ultimate underground fight, club-style showdown. Honor duels, brutalilo menascenrons. The whole package, which I totally saw coming. Time to barter about fighting for your majesty, while letting the ancestors bless Blackstone tribe. I spoke up, dropping a thick compliment right at the start. Before making the hard pivot, however, your majesty surely gets the picture. My clan has been starving for years now. Our gear is absolute trash. Dispatching us, as we are, won't just look pathetic for us. It's going to embarrass your whole kingdom. Rival nations will definitely say, your majesty's champions are weak sauce. Surely that's a total L. A major power move, basically telling the king, hand over the loot or look like a clown. The atmosphere instantly grew heavy. Several chieftains muttered angrily, calling it pure insolence. Suddenly a thunderous roar blasted from the king's left. General Grom Bloodhowl stepped forward with a heavy thud. The old man of Garrush, that silk-wearing Zero, I had sent flying through the air yesterday. A massive brute from the Wolf clan, sporting a face like a sculpted nightmare, radiating pure, I'm gonna tear your spine out energy. Some lucky half-breed actually dares to negotiate in the royal court. Your majesty, just let me rip him to pieces right now. He stomped closer, while his aggressive aura felt almost tangible, akin to standing right next to an open furnace. Lena and Bark tensed up while I glanced at Bloodhowl, the exact way you'd look at a barking mutt behind a chain-link fence. Then I pivoted back to the king and kept talking smoothly, completely ghosting the general. That utter dismissal made Bloodhowl's eye twitch uncontrollably. Being completely ignored hurts way worse than any direct insult. For guys built like him, your majesty. I'm just keeping it real with facts. Fertile land is a must-have for fierce warriors to thrive. Heavy iron weapons are required too. Proper training grounds and official standing are essential. Hand over an investment territory to the Blackstone tribe, along with a title, and will step up as your actual weapon. Instead of playing disposable cannon fodder. Investment title, huh? Throwing his head back, Grom let out a roaring laugh. The throne room literally vibrated as he chuckled. You clever little rat. You're way more entertaining than all these brain-dead meatheads put together. Cutting off instantly like a flipped switch, the laughter died. His piercing gaze turned knife-sharp. Spit it out, what do you want? Taking a steadying breath, I spoke up. Grant the Blackstone tribe an official territory. Assign me a matching noble title. And let me build my own warband from scratch. In exchange, I'll secure glory for you in the Makara. Enroll as your personal blade moving forward. No way in hell, Bloodhowl blasted out once more. Your Majesty, handing land and titles to some random half-breed? That's completely wild, chimed in the other conservative chiefs. Raising a single hand, Grum shut the whole room down instantly. Like someone hit the mute button. The Makara is where worth gets proven. Rhythmic tapping echoed as Grom's fingers drummed the obsidian armrest. Top. Fine, your request is granted. But what's your counter? A top 10 finish? Gasps erupted across the room. Top 10? In a tournament. Where every powerhouse clan sends their absolute elite. Coming from a low-tier tribe. That isn't just confidence. That's low-key insanity. Grom's eyes practically glowing. Pull off a top 10 finish and we have a deal. But if you bomb it, you and your entire Blackstone tribe get demoted to slaves. Every single thing you own gets seized, deal? Without a single hesitation or even a blink. Huh? I gotta admit, I love your hustle, Grom remarked, visibly amused. Now spill, which plot of land do you want? Pardon my lips to name that sweet. Fertile Valley I had scoped out earlier. Right next to our home base. Hold up, your Majesty, Blood Hollow cut right in. Flashing the most wicked grin I'd laid eyes on since stepping foot in this realm. Given how fiercely ambitious Chief Stanson tends to be, why not hand over the entire territory surrounding Blackstone to him? Stretching east to the Ripclaw Mountains, reaching west to the Shadow Swamp, and pushing south to the Roaring River, bounded north by the Troll Ruins, since it's all completely unclaimed land. It's practically tailor-made for such a legendary leader. And suddenly the room went dead silent before sharp gasps erupted, quickly followed by wicked smirks. I literally felt my stomach drop straight down, because that unclaimed land happened to be unclaimed. For damn good reason. Measuring 10 times larger than what I originally planned to request. It was essentially a tiny nation. Sounds like an absolute steal, right? Nope, it was unclaimed purely because it was a total nightmare. Packed with dense, deadly forests, lethal swamps, and crumbling ancient ruins hiding God knows what. There were rival troll tribes alongside rogue human mercenary crews, vicious goblin bandits, and endless whispers of undead horrors and magical beasts. It was officially classified by the kingdom as the ultimate too dangerous to bother with. Total write-off zone. Essentially the high fantasy equivalent of getting handed a deed to a cursed minefield. While someone cheerfully tells you congratulations on your new real estate, Bloodhowl was flashing a ruthless, predatory grin, serving up sweet revenge for me humiliating his kid earlier. Take this gift. A massive plot of land guaranteed to get you killed. Grom chimed in, calling it an excellent suggestion. His eyes locked onto me with transparent amusement. What's your verdict on that, Chief Stanson? Is that generous enough for you? Every single eye in the hall was fixed on me, with Blood Hollow smirking broadly while Lena and Bark drained of all color. They didn't know every single detail, yet they could read the room loud and clear. This was a death sentence disguised as a wrapped present, wrapped inside a massive trap. If I accepted, I'd be walking straight into a grinder with a massive target on my back. If I refused, I would look like a total coward in front of the whole kingdom and lose everything, classic style. My brain crunched the numbers at warp speed, recognizing the catastrophic danger, yet spotting a massive territory completely free from royal interference, offering unlimited growth potential, total independence. And all those lethal threats were just untapped resources waiting to be claimed, waiting for someone strong enough to take them. Trolls' future soldiers, bandits' future soldiers, monsters' future experience points. The whole place was an absolute nightmare. Yet nightmares are merely opportunities, waiting to be beaten into shape, low-key. My go-to motto echoed in my head. Only a total clown passes up a sweet deal. I slapped on my most grateful, most honored, most thrilled expression possible. Much obliged, Your Majesty. Stanson will gladly hold this turf for the kingdom and totally clear out every single monster and bandit in sight. Dead silence fell across the entire hall. Not a single soul thought I'd actually say yes. Bloodhowl's smug smirk froze as I started twitching. He totally expected me to freak out, back out, or at least look terrified. Instead, I was thanking the king for handing me a literal death trap. That plot twist wasn't in his script at all. Grom stared daggers at me for a second, before bursting into a laugh way louder than before. Based. I'm seriously vibing with this reckless energy. He waved his massive hand dismissively. From this exact moment, the Stanson is officially named Lord of Thorns. His domain shall be the exact territory Bloodhowl just outlined. He has full permission to recruit warriors and build his own squad. If he somehow cracks the top 10 in the Makora, that title and land will become permanent and hereditary. Many thanks, Your Majesty. I dropped into a deep bow while Bloodhowl's face turned pitch black. He had just served me a poison cup, and I chugged it down with a smile, totally clueless whether to rage or be utterly confused. He ultimately chose pure rage as we stepped out of the throne room. The very second those giant bone and bronze doors slammed shut behind us, my grateful and honored facade vanished entirely, like it was never even there. Bart grabbed my arm urgently, boss. That territory is absolute. Save it. My voice dropped to sub-zero temperatures. Lena leaned in closer. That is suicide run. I know it is, I muttered back, gazing out over the sprawling spiral city, and beyond, toward the distant horizon where my new empire awaited, swarming with obnoxious trolls and low-key bandits, plus actual undead creatures practically drooling to feast on my face. A genuine smirk crept across my lips, signaling the exact moment I'm about to pull off something ridiculously genius or totally brain-dead. Honestly, I haven't even figured out which one it is yet. But the silver lining about death roads? Zero traffic to deal with. No sane soul is unhinged enough to walk down these paths, which basically guarantees that whatever way to the finish line belongs entirely to me, so I march forward. Let's lock it on the Makarov first, guys, because we seriously need this top 10 spot locked down, unless we're super thrilled about wearing slave collars. Only after that do we claim our gorgeous, haunted swamp, our very own troll-infested, monster-filled Kingdom Park. He looked like he was about to burst into tears. Lena maintained her totally poker face, though I could totally tell. She was low-key, throwing a massive, feline internal sigh. Lord of Thorns, yeah, that was my brand new title. Lord of Thorns, and you know what? I actually vibe with it because it's brutally honest. No fake sugarcoating or pretending things would be a breeze. Just a casual, here's your crown made of sharp, stabby objects. Try not to bleed out, which is totally my aesthetic. Now, my only minor chore was fighting my way straight into the top 10 of the most hardcore, ruthless tournament across the entire continent, or else face lifelong slavery, no pressure at all, stumbling straight out of the royal palace gates. My lungs finally drinking in some fresh air, while my brain was totally fried from political burnout. Chatting with the Lion King felt like trying to defuse a complex bomb, where every single wire is labeled either your ego or his ego, and clipping the wrong one instantly triggers total war. Lord, dealing with these giant majestic cats is draining. I mumbled over to Lena, dodging around words is exhausting. I'd rather just punch someone in the face instead. Life would be so much simpler that way, Lena smiled, flashing that ultra-rare Lena grin. That's literally harder to spot than a mythical unicorn, before flicking her tail. You handled it well, though, considering he actually accepted your guest status. Even though, to be completely real, the filthy look he threw my way made me want to rip out his fancy mane strand by strand. Sarah chimed in with some fiercely supportive backup about making all of them pay dearly sooner or later. Such solid women, absolutely terrifying women. These are definitely my people. Now let's go track down a bar. Some booze is an absolute must right now, because this joint's gotta have something worth pouring, right? Strolling down through the sprawling chaos of Beast King City, we found ourselves looking at exactly what you'd picture if an entire clan of orcs was handed unlimited stones, alongside zero interior design background, to build a metropolis. Log structures mingled with heavy stone architecture, blending timber and masonry together, while sharp angles dominated every single facade, giving the weird impression that the buildings themselves were looking for fistfight. A massive crowd of diverse species choked up the bustling avenues, featuring orcs, half-orcs, and beastmen, mingling right alongside traveling merchants and seasoned adventurers, all screaming at the top of their lungs, haggling over prices, and occasionally throwing hands at one another. The thick air was heavy with scents of roasted meat, weathered leather, heavy animal musk, and a subtle undercurrent of wild, untamed magic. It gave off a low-key, charming vibe, though heavily spiced with a constant risk of getting shanked. Bloodfang was currently rolling in stealth mode, shrunk down to the respectable proportions of a large dog, instead of rocking his usual tiny horse stature. Even in this form, he was still radiating enough pure murder aura to carve out a safe 10-foot bubble of personal breathing room around us the entire time. What a good boy, until I finally spotted him right there. Over by the street corner stood a massive minotaur, towering even higher than me, which is honestly saying something. Yet he wasn't sporting the typical warrior look. Instead, traditional shamanic robes adorned his frame, heavily decorated with feathers, bone beads, and colorful polished stones. One of his massive horns showed signs of an old break that had since regrown, completely etched with intricate carved runes. Perched on an old tree stump alongside a makeshift display, he presided over glowing minerals and tiny handmade totems, giving off the distinct vibe of the most zen flea market vendor in existence. Those eyes of his were the real deal, carrying a deep, unshakable calm, the kind of gaze belonging to someone who had witnessed half a century of absolute madness, and decided most of it wasn't even worth stressing over. Wisdom had practically manifested into a physical form, and it turned out to be a giant cowman, peddling random rocks on a dusty street corner. A wandering bullman shaman of the old-school variety. Truly old-school, traditional style. Instantly, my internal alarm bells started ringing. Though it wasn't a danger alert, it was a pure opportunity jackpot, especially since my magic kept acting completely haywire lately. That whole super bloodlust fiasco, and every single one of those healing blasts, made me desperately hunt for someone who actually got how energy functioned in this realm. The old and the brand new. She was like a basic village nurse compared to what I needed. Yet this dude looked like an actual medical pro. Stay put right here, I told Lena and Sarah before striding over. He stared up at me, completely unfazed, as if he had totally seen me coming. Wanderer, the Earth Mother steers your steps to bedrock. Wind Chaser. Do you require healing herbs, or perhaps a guiding totem? I offered him a respectful, traditional greeting, placing my fist on my chest with a slight bow. And honestly speaking, I am not here to buy any merch. I can totally feel the ancient wisdom radiating through you. I am just dealing with a massive amount of raw power, and absolutely zero clue on how to handle it right. I need proper guidance. Bedrock's eyes flickered. It was obvious he was sensing something deep inside me. That insane ocean of magical energy I lug around. Pretty much like a ticking nuclear reactor. His vibe instantly shifted from polite merchant to realizing, what on earth is actually trapped inside this guy? The path of the shaman, he stated, his voice rumbling like the deep earth, is all about tuning in, communicating, and staying balanced. Listening closely to wind and water, fire and earth. Communicating directly with elemental spirits, alongside ancestral souls. Balancing inner fury with the gifts of nature. It is never a shortcut to quick power. So why do you even seek this path? Because my ability acts like a wild horse I cannot tame. It keeps backfiring and hurting me and my crew. I refuse to just bottle it up or let it run totally free. Instead, I want to comprehend it. Shaman philosophy honestly feels like the right move here. He looked me over carefully for a long moment, before offering a slow nod to acknowledge potential dangers, and prioritizing true comprehension over mere control. That sort of mindset is rare wisdom, and your situation is one of a kind. Never have I sensed an energy so vast and primal, residing in any mortal soul. It honestly feels less like something you built up yourself, and more like a force of nature incarnate. Very well then, since the Earth Mother seems quite insistent, I will impart the foundational knowledge to you. How much you actually absorb hinges totally on your bond with the elements. Cash was offered by me, but he declined it flat out. Wisdom shared is its own reward, you know, if you ever down the road Utilize this insight for balance and protection. That repays me fully. What a wholesome mindset. Plus free lessons, I vibe with both equally. A pair of basic shaman spells were shown to me by him. Stone Skin being the first one. Earth energy gets channeled to manifest an invisible rock. Armor layer over your skin, a super clutch defensive spell. And totally practical, while the second is Earth Healing, channeling the primal life force inside the ground. So that wound recovery gets accelerated fast. It's basically nature's upgraded version of what I've been pulling off with my raw healing power, just way more dialed in. A subtle granite-like glow was demonstrated by him as it wrapped his arm, looking seriously tanky. Then a tiny stone chip was used to nick his finger. Soft chanting followed as his palm hovered over the cut, and it sealed right up in mere seconds. So clean, elegant, and completely under control. Give it a shot, he urged me. Remember to resonate and guide properly. Never force it, since elements are homies. Not slaves, got it? A deep breath was taken, eyes snapped shut, reaching out toward the dirt beneath my sneakers. Its gentle pulse and warmth could be felt, alongside that ancient, grounded patience making contact. Right before my ridiculously overpowered magical ocean decided to step in and help. You see, the main issue with holding continent-sized reserves of raw nature energy inside you is that when a polite little knock is given at the Earth's door, with a casual hello, "Can I please borrow a tiny cup of stone energy, comma," that polite knock fails to register with the ground. Instead, its absolute supreme overlord is heard, dropping a royal decree, and it answers back in a major way. Blinding golden brown. Radiance bursts straight out from my soles like a geyser. No delicate coating or subtle shimmer happen here. An absolute tsunami of earth energy surged upward to encase my entire physique. Inside solid rock armor, measuring at least 6 solid inches in thickness, and shining brilliantly like polished obsidian, blended seamlessly with dark, sharp-edged iron that looked low-key terrifying. Built tough enough to absorb a full-strength strike from a beast. General. Earth energy was actually pulsing straight across the exterior surface, constantly fortifying itself on the fly. I was rocking the exact vibe of Final Boss straight out of a video game. Stone Skin? Nah, this was full-on Stone Fortress. Stone Mountain, pure stone. I am the Earth, and the Earth is totally me. The jaw of Bedrock Wind Chaser dropped so ridiculously low, I could literally spot his molars. His totem staff slipped and nearly dropped right out of his grip. The legendary Bullman Shaman, packing 50 years of hard-earned wisdom and centuries of proud tradition, was staring at me like I had just gone ahead and divided by 0. Right in front of his face, ugh. I muttered from deep inside my utterly ridiculous rock exosuit. Oops, but hold on. Things got even wilder. Feeling totally extra about that massive Stone Skin overreaction, I decided, let me try out the healing spell instead. That's way gentler. Surely I can manage a soft touch vibe. Narrator. Definitely could not manage a soft touch as I ditched the rock armor, which felt way too effortless, causing Bedrock to twitch nervously as he watched me casually brush off fortress grade earth magic like I was just peeling off a jacket, and reach out for raw life energy instead. The Earth's powerful life force heard my beckoning call and came sprinting. Not walking, not even jogging. Full-on sprinting. Like an excited puppy whose human just came back home after a whole year. A massive pillar of glowing emerald green light completely swallowed me whole and turned totally solid. So densely packed with pure vitality, it was practically dripping wet. The stubborn weeds, sprouting through the cracks of nearby cobblestones, suddenly began shooting up and flowering in real time. Tiny yellow blooms burst right out through the hard stone, as if nature itself was throwing a massive rager to celebrate me. My hands were glowing so intensely they looked straight up radioactive. Vibrant green energy was literally leaking out of every single pore. I was low-key packing 10,000% more healing juice than I actually needed for anything short of completely reassembling a broken corpse. I glanced down at Bedrock's finger, the exact cut he got earlier, which was already mostly patching itself up, and figured, you know what? Might as well test drive this on something. I directed the blazing energy straight toward him, gently as a high-pressure fire hose can possibly be gentle. Bam, an emerald beam just completely washed over him. Bedrock let out a gasp before his eyes flew wide open. stretching even wider as his entire frame violently shook. Every single chronic injury he had ever suffered through. Decades of accumulated physical wear and tear. Stubborn battle scars and achy, aging joints. Worn-out muscles got turbo-healed in about 2 seconds flat. A strange itchiness started spreading on his broken horn. It was trying to sprout back while his skin tightened up, and his posture locked straight. The deep exhaustion in his eyes completely vanished. He honestly looked like somebody had just hit the factory reset button for real. On a 50-year-old shaman, he didn't just feel better. He felt dead-ass young again, and I could totally tell. The old Minotaur was low-key fighting the urge to throw his head back and let out a hype victory bellow. Pure earth magic healing. That was an absolute life tsunami. Mother Nature's full system reboot. Basically God's own spa day, while Bedrock stood there trembling and staring at me like I was either some crazy miracle or a total curse. Possibly both, so I awkwardly scratched my nose. My bad about the, intense energy surge. Are you doing okay? He needed to take several deep breaths before speaking. And when he finally did, his voice was still trembling. Stanson, what are you even? This isn't just normal elemental resonance. This is straight up nature's blessing. The Earth Mother isn't just listening to your call. She's obeying you, no wait. She's practically out here worshiping you. He waved his massive hands around wildly, like a guy trying to explain a UFO sighting to total skeptics. I've practiced the shaman path for 50 solid years, yet I have never seen or even heard of anyone channeling this massive scale and purity of natural power. So effortlessly, you aren't even requesting the elements. You're just announcing your will, and they respond with like 100 to 1,000 times the force, yeah. That's kind of the main issue here. I replied, I need less power. Give me a dimmer switch, not a blinding spotlight. Out there, in an actual fight, this ridiculous level of healing would probably accidentally turn my teammates into literal trees. And throwing up that much stone armor would honestly trap me, stuck inside a massive boulder. Bedrock's expression flickered through a dozen micro-expressions. In 3 seconds flat, total shock, low-key envy, absolute disbelief, pure awe, and finally ending up with a long, heavy, existential sigh, the kind of sigh that screams, I spent my entire life grinding up this mountain, and this absolute menace just fast-traveled to the peak, only to complain about the scenery. Your whole deal is way past traditional shaman teachings. He finally managed to say, rubbing his temples, you aren't supposed to learn how to channel more mana. Instead, you gotta master channeling. A single drop. That requires microscopic spiritual control and a much deeper vibe check with energy's true nature. My suggestion is that you seek out communion with ancient spirits. Think ancient woodland entities, or deeply rooted mountain cores, beings that have spent thousands of years learning patience in absolute stillness. They might teach you what I simply cannot. So the TLDR was that I successfully learned 2 shaman spells, while also accidentally executing them. At roughly 1,000% capacity, de-aging a 50-year-old guru, sprouting vibrant blooms through solid cobblestone, and low-key traumatizing a wise elder. Just another casual Tuesday. Proper respect was shown as I thanked Bedrock sincerely, gifting him some high-tier earth and water cores, plus some fancy elf-brewed tea straight from my storage ring. He tried to decline, but I insisted, causing him to eventually cave before we finally parted ways. May the Earth Mother protect you, lost yet terrifyingly powerful child, were his parting words as the cool breeze swept through. Your path is bound to be legendary. But keep this in mind, immense power brings profound responsibility. Poetic, profoundly wise, and slightly terrified of me. I'll take it. As we walked away into the golden afternoon sun, Lena let out a rare, genuine laugh, her tail doing that signature happy swish. So much for your brilliant plan to keep a low profile and learn something chill, supersized shaman. With a shrug, I muttered, at this point, I've completely accepted that keeping a low profile and my name don't even belong in the same dictionary. Well, at least the itinerary is locked in for the next stop. Track down some ancient trees or legendary peaks, and sit down for a deep heart-to-heart about basic emotional regulation. Honestly, Sarah was low-key thrilled for me, man. Dropping some legit supportive hype my way. Like, awesome, Tiger, we totally tracked down our spot. I flagged down the bartender and requested whatever kicked the hardest. Swallowing it felt like someone had straight up punched a campfire, straight into liquid form. Honestly, absolute perfection. So, wrapping up this wild day of magical schooling in a nutshell. The target objective was stone skin and basic earth healing. The actual outcome? A solid fortress and a full-on life tsunami. Collateral side effects included getting accidentally de-aged, while Shaman grew a whole botanical garden right through solid rock. Naturally, that completely freaked out everybody in sight. My teacher's official critique? You're not even a student. You're just a walking natural disaster with polite manners. My own verdict is that I desperately need therapy or a random mountain event too, because apparently, those two are basically the exact same thing in this realm.